Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Naruto. God Level Majin Buu. Chapter 1. Name: Jukwon. Subject: Infinite Regeneration, Majin Buu. Physique: Absorption and Division, Control of Cell Morphology. Capacity: None. Energy: 10,000. Slave: None. Quote. Although he watched it many times, after watching it again, Jukwon couldn't help but sigh and complain. What's going on with that slave? Although I also like this kind of shameful thing, is it really good to display it so blatantly in the mission status? Quote. Jukwon is an abandoned house not long after graduating from college. As an orphan with no car and no house, and both parents died, it is simply a model in the silk. After finally finding a decent job, he was drinking and celebrating at home, and after getting drunk, he inexplicably came to the world of Naruto. However, compared to crossing into this dangerous world, Jukwon is more ecstatic. As a traverser, Jukwon obtained the Goldfinger, God-level Majin Buu system the first time he came to this world. The God-level Majin Buu system, as the name suggests, is to allow Jukwon to get the ability of the villain Majin Buu in the anime Dragon Ball Z. Having seen the 9 springs of Dragon Ball, I don't know too much about this ability. Simply put, even if there is only one cell left, it can divide and revive indefinitely. As the last big boss in Dragon Ball Z, Majin Buu, his strength is definitely extremely strong. The original version of Buu, even if Sun Wukong opened Super Saiyan 3, he couldn't beat it. If Buu had split a cell in advance at that time, he would not have been beaten by Sun Wukong's Vitality Bomb in the end, and there would be no slag left. Of course, even the weakest version of Buu, Fat Buu, is enough to wreak havoc on the entire Hokage world. After all, the power is not a dimension at all. So Jukwon was very happy to get this system, until he saw it. The ultimate task: break through space. Respected host, with the ability of God-level Demon Buu, are you still willing to live your life as before? Please feel strong enough to break through space. Mission success. Reward 100,000 energy. God-level class suits, nurse suits, sailor suits, student suits, etc. Mission failure. Abandoning any side quests in the future is considered a mission failure, or is forever lonely, or is forced to cuckold. Jukwon looked at the sky speechless again, not to mention the brief introduction of the task of the middle two. In the mission reward, except for 100,000 energy is still normal, what the hell are the others? Don't think that adding the word, God level, in front of these shameful tools can improve your qualifications. Although he says that he is a man with normal needs, he has not yet become a moving humanoid Tintin. And what is the situation with that mission failure penalty? What about said good obliteration? Come and kill me. Jukwon closed the task interface and quietly lit a cigarette to think about life. He kind of figured out the truth: life is like that, you can't resist, you can only enjoy. Since the punishment for failure is so terrible, I will poke a hole in the space for you to see. Pervert system. Since this is already the case, let's see what ability can be exchanged first. After calming down, Jukwon entered the system exchange page. Suddenly, a dazzling array of abilities and items from various worlds appeared in front of him, almost stunning him. However, if it becomes stronger, Koizumi still decides to exchange it from the world of Dragon Ball. After all, the power system of the Dragon Ball world can be said to be the strongest. The only thing that made him happy was that the exchange in the perverted system did not pit money, and the price was more reasonable. For this point, Jukwon can only sigh. Fortunately, it is not produced by penguins. Finding the exchange of chi in the exchange interface, Jukwon chose to confirm without hesitation. Because Jukwon also browsed it just now, common Dragon Ball skills such as Dancing Void Technique and Turtle Sect Qigong need to be learned before they can be used. What was originally 10,000 points of energy is now running out. After learning Qi, the attribute panel of Jukwon also changed. Name: Jukwon. Subject: Infinite Regeneration, Majin Buu. Physique: Absorption and Division, Control of Cell Morphology. Ability: Use of Qi. Energy: 0. Slave: None. At the same time, a powerful wave of Qi was generated on Jukwon's body and dispersed in all directions, and even the earth under his feet was pushed out into a circle with a radius of 100 meters. Gee, it's worthy of the physique of Majin Buu. If it is an ordinary person, I am afraid that it can only initially sense qi, and it is impossible to release such a big wave of qi. At this time, Juquan only felt that every cell in his body contained extremely energetic qi and was full of power. Exiting the exchange interface, Juquan began to familiarize himself with his newly acquired powers. The target was an ancient tree 100 meters away, and he jumped over with a slight jump, but Juquan did not use much force. Pong! A punch was made on the tree, as if it were on foam, and the tree with a diameter of 5 meters broke in response. To this extent, it is impossible to test how strong you are at present. Then there is only Pong! This time, Juquan used a full 50% of his strength and slammed into the ground with a punch. In an instant, the earth cracked a bottomless gap, extending all the way to the mountain not far away. Peak! Click! A mountain was just in half, and the crack stopped. Juquan saw his masterpiece and smiled with satisfaction. It really deserves to be the physique of Majin Buu, plus the most important chi in the Dragon Ball world. The combination of the two is actually so strong. Under normal circumstances, it only takes 50% of the strength to open the mountain. If there is something in the future, just greet the past with one punch, and if one punch does not work, 2 punches. If the strength is too strong, there will be shortcomings, and Juquan feels pain and happiness about it. For example, it was hard to find a beast, and it was about to fight the tooth sacrifice, but as a result, a punch directly exploded into slag. I wanted to pick a wild fruit to eat, and one accidentally crushed it. This is not okay, in case you find a girlfriend in the future. I was happily doing something shameful, and as a result, I was strenuous. Thinking of some bloody scenes, Juquan instantly shivered. There's a beast here, let's sneak up on it and kill it gently. This time, Juquan finally made progress, only shattering half of the beast's body, and the remaining half could not be stewed in one pot, 2 barbecue grills. It is worth mentioning that killing beasts is a daily task, and there are also energy rewards, ranging from 50 to 100 energy points. However, according to Juquan's estimates, these beasts, worth 50 rewards, have an attack power comparable to ordinary shinobi. In other words, his casual punch may kill the lower shinobi to the scum. Regarding chi, Juquan tried to send a wave, or fly or something. But without these practices, it simply wouldn't work. No wonder the system has the ability exchange of turtle school qigong, dance air art and so on. However, one thing is gratifying, after exchanging the ability, Juquan will not only master its ability instantly, but also have all the cultivation methods. In other words, Juquan can teach this ability to others. Imagine Naruto driving Genki bombs against Sasuke, that scene. After killing the beasts for 2 days, until the beasts in the vicinity were almost extinct, Juquan did not stop. And the accumulated energy has reached 8,000. Juquan immediately exchanged a turtle school qigong, so he returned to the pre-liberation overnight. Turtle pie qigong. Pong. Gee, although it is a lot worse than the original Majin Buu, it can already wreak havoc in the Hokage world. Another mountain was destroyed, and Juquan only consumed 30% of its chi. Looking at his masterpiece, Juquan decided to go out of the mountain. Coming to the Hokage world, if you don't go to Konoha Wave, you will cross it for nothing. The priority now is to determine where the plot goes. But at this time, he is in the barren mountains and old forests, let alone people, not even a dog, so he must find someone first. As soon as his feet moved, Juquan jumped forward, casually a distance of 1,000 meters, and it was difficult for even a shadow-level powerhouse to do it. Single-wheel body technique. I am afraid that only Kai can try it in the whole world. Of course, the premise is that the 8 doors are opened. This man who almost kicked out of the finale, if held again a little longer, and you may motor out. In this regard, Juquan said that it does not matter. Majin Buu's physique makes his endurance like a monster, and unless he is mentally exhausted, he doesn't feel tired at all. Out of this barren mountain, Juquan has been running in one direction, and the sun that was still overhead is about to go down. The setting sun dyed Juquan's whole person red. The population density of this world is so small, is it family planning? Juquan looked at the horizon that still couldn't see people, and complained wordlessly. But complain after complain, the road still has to be rushed. Teleportation is too expensive, but next time you must change the dance air technique, otherwise the live broadcast will snap the 5-speed electric fan." Fiercely made an earth-shattering poisonous oath, Jukwon continued to move forward. "Finally, when the bright moon was high, I came to the mouth of a small town." Jukwon burst into tears. It's not easy to find a small town. Taking advantage of the night, Jukwon used his own cells to transform a black robe to put on his body and walk into the town. Although it was late, there were still many pedestrians on the road. Jukwon walked down the street, and passers-by observed him with curious eyes. After all, people dressed so strangely are rarely seen. In this regard, Jukwon shook his head helplessly. Sure enough, a man as outstanding as himself, no matter where he hid, shone like a firefly in the night. In the hotel on the street, from time to time, there was the sound of men's scolding and women's laughter. For this extravagant and rotten life, Jukwon is completely inexperienced. In his previous life, as a model abandoned house, he spent almost all his free time at home, and he hadn't even been to KTV for 22 years. When it's okay, watch anime and play leagues. So of course, he is still an old virgin. "I'm in my 20s, I'm really sorry for raising the average breaking age of the great celestial empire." Full of resentment, Jukwon instantly felt that the system did not seem to be so perverted, otherwise he would receive one first. At this time, 2 drunkards came out of the casino next to it and happened to pass by Jukwon. "I really didn't expect that today. I actually met the legendary Big Fat Sheep. Let me make up all the money I lost before, ha ha ha. And the pair of murderers, have you seen it? It's really big. Don't think about it, man, people are one of the 3 ninjas. If you look for death, just go. It's just talking, it's just talking." The 2 talked, faded away, and disappeared around the corner. After listening, Jukwon put on a smile of unknown meaning and walked towards the casino. One of the 3 ninjas, haunted casinos, the legendary Big Fat Sheep, the big murderer. So many key words, Jukwon thought with his small buttocks, and he knew who that person was. Within 2 steps, he walked to the casino gate. With just one glance, Koizumi knew that Tsunade was inside. The reason is simple, because the business of this casino is so good. For this phenomenon, Jukwon can only support the forehead. How much does it cost to support her? Sighing, Jukwon also walked into the casino. There are a lot of people in the casino, almost all gamblers with large amounts of money, and they are all looking at the corner of the casino. Jukwon followed their gaze and saw the silhouette. One of the 3 shinobi of Konoha, the princess of the Senju clan, Senju Tsunade. Long hair with a golden shawl, a beautiful royal sister's face, and the iconic diamond pattern on the eyebrows. And the pair of big murderers that only Tsunade can support. At this moment, the voice of the system sounded in Jukwon's mind. Side quest, subduing Tsunade. As a strong person, how can you still use your own hands? For the ultimate mission, bravely take Tsunade and take the first step. Quote. Mission reward. 8,000 energy, God level adjustable small toys. Mission failure. Considered a final mission failure, the host is either immortal loneliness or forced to cuckold. It's terrible. Mom, I'm going home. For the system tasks without lower limits, Jukwon is no longer able to complain. He believes that although his temperance may not be there, it is by no means to the point of negative numbers. But this task cannot be completed until it is completed. Tsunade didn't know that he had been included in the Hokage World Quest list by someone, and he was still gambling like a loser. Koizumi found a place to sit down, his eyes fixed on Tsunade, and waited quietly. At the same time, Tsunade, who had lost several thousand taels again, sighed. Just as she was about to come again, she suddenly felt that she was locked by an unfathomable breath. Although Tsunade's main profession is a medical ninja, his combat power is definitely not weak. If you can't even find Jukwon, who doesn't have a hidden aura, then it's better to use your own murderous department to suffocate yourself. As soon as he turned his head, Tsunade saw Koizumi shrouded in black robes. This person is not an ordinary person. Tsunade frowned slightly. She could feel that this breath was coming from this mysterious person who was shrouded in black robes. As a ninja, and one of the 3 ninjas, it can be said that most of his life hovers on the line of life and death, but this mysterious man in black robes is really incomprehensible, and even chakra can't sense it. But this breath definitely does not belong to the weak. If she continues to stay here, Shizune may return soon, and I am afraid that it will be difficult for him to take care of her at that time. Thinking of this, Tsunade immediately got up and prepared to leave quickly. The identity of Tsunade Sanshin is not a secret at all, as long as someone with a little inquiry can know. So she was sure that at least the mysterious person in front of her definitely knew her identity. But knowing his identity, the mysterious man locked himself with his breath, which can only mean 2 points. Or, the mysterious man is mentally retarded. Or, he has no fear. In Tsunade's eyes, mental retardation dies early, so she clearly leans towards the latter. That is to say, this mysterious person is at least not weaker than his own strength, so it is imminent to transfer the battlefield. However, if Tsunade knew that she was just someone's object, I don't know how she would feel. Therefore, women who are older are better at self-brain supplementation, especially two-dimensional ones. However, Kusin did not know that Tsunade had already experienced a brainstorm. Don't go, big fat sheep, a few more rounds, maybe you can win back, ha ha ha. The gambler who had just won a few thousand taels saw that Tsunade was leaving, and he was a little anxious and quickly excited. However, Tsunade was too lazy to pay attention to this gambler and directly prepared to leave. If she fights with the mysterious man here, I am afraid that everyone here will die. However, this gambler entangled a few people and intercepted Tsunade's way, and it didn't look like he let the big fat sheep leave like this. Now is not the era of war, and ninjas cannot kill or injure ordinary people at will, otherwise they are easily wanted. If it's okay to say that a sparsely populated place is, just slaughter it directly. But in front of everyone here, and Tsunade is a 3 ninja, he also has to pay attention to Konoha's influence. However, although it is not possible to do it directly, there are many ways to deal with this kind of goods. For example, as soon as Tsunade released the murderous aura he had honed on the battlefield, everyone stopped talking in an instant. These ordinary people have seen such a strong murderous aura there, and they collapsed directly to the ground, and it was already very good without being scared to death. Tsunade glanced at them with disdain, ignoring the mentally retarded who had been paralyzed by fright, and put the money he had just lost to him back into his pocket. This way of cleaning up the miscellaneous soldiers with momentum reminded Jukwon of the Overlord color domineering, and he didn't know how strong he could be if he learned it. Silently glanced at the energy balance, or save energy to exchange for the dance void art first. While Koizumi was groaning in his heart, Tsunade also left the casino. He naturally noticed Tsunade's movements and left with Tsunade. As soon as he left the casino, Tsunade let go of his speed and sped up on the roof. The corners of Jukwon's mouth turned up and chased after him. Tsunade's speed had increased to the maximum, but when he turned his head, he found that the mysterious man was easily following behind. There was no way, she could only run to sparsely populated places. With the strength of Tsunade, even if he faces Thunder Shadow, who is also famous for his physical skills, he has the power of a battle. However, she also has a disadvantage, that is, speed. So seeing that he couldn't get rid of the mysterious man, Tsunade gave up the idea of getting rid of the mysterious man and prepared to face the enemy head-on. Soon, the two were out of town, surrounded by no people, which was a good place for a decisive battle. Who are you? What is the purpose? Quote, Tsunade stopped and looked at the mysterious man in front of him with a frown. Covenant. Jukwon smiled honey. Ha, quote. Tsunade said that he couldn't understand what this guy was saying at all, and looked at him inexplicably. Oh, literally, quote. As an old virgin, Jukwon knew what to say. The two looked at each other for a long time, neither of them spoke, both waiting for each other's follow-up. The air was pervasive, there was a deathly silence, and the scene was very embarrassing for a while. It seems that if you want to tell the truth, you can only use a little means. Tsunade took the lead in breaking the calm, gathering chakra in his hands and waiting for it. Then it depends on your ability. After that, Jukwon rushed towards Tsunade, and his fist hit her head without hesitation. It just so happens that I also want to test my strength in fighting against people, and I don't know how much strength I need to use to fight against the 3 shinobi. Otherwise, use Issei's power first. Feel free to punch. As a reader with 9 years of obligation, 3 years of simulation, and 4 years of hang-up, Jukwon actually did not really want to conquer Tsunade by force. Simple, rough, and rough. However, since the system that has no restraint is issuing tasks, now I have to beat her, and then plan for the long term. Anyway, Tsunade must get, for the sake of future happiness, it really can't be strong to make her ex. On the other hand, Tsunade, seeing the enemy's attack fall, after all, she was already a battle-hardened powerhouse, plus she was confident in her own strength, so she used 70% of her strength to punch back. Pong! A wave of chi generated by a strong impact instantly exploded, forming a large pit with a radius of 50 meters. The power of the three ninjas, that's it. Even if you use the immortal mode, you can almost only reach your own 3% strength, and if you use 5% power, I am afraid that you will play the three ninja badly. Jukwon stood in place and had a general understanding of the strength of the three shinobi. However, Tsunade could not withstand such a strong force, and took a few steps back, looking at the mysterious man in front of him in disbelief. Speaking of which, the principle of her strange power is very simple. Of course, it is only a principle. Tsunade's strange power is actually based on super chakra control. When attacking, greatly strengthen the body through chakra. Somatic cells, combined with the result of a large number of chakras erupting suddenly when hitting the target. However, it needs to be strong enough. Body, as well as top-notch chakra control. Imagine being a body. The body strengthens to the limit of what the muscles can withstand, and when chakra erupts, it is also difficult to control it to the limit. Therefore, although the principle is simple, there are very few people who can practice strange powers. But once trained, in terms of strength, there are almost no opponents. If hit head-on, it is enough to make ordinary upper shinobi instantly become meat puree. But the mysterious person in front of him does not look like opening the 8-door Dunjia. He was actually able to use 70% of his strength to shock himself head-on, how not to shock Tsunade? So Tsunade's mood at this moment can only be described as shock, being able to suppress her in terms of strength, which has not been seen for more than 10 years. Didn't feel with chakra, just with the body. Physical strength. Tsunade silently analyzed Kusan's intelligence. However, Jukwon's mind has drifted far away and is pondering tangled. What about entering? Or Orthodox missionaries? Milk. Cannons are definitely going to be there. Tsunade obviously wouldn't give Jukwon time to think about it, and seeing that the mysterious person in front of her was shaking, she suddenly raised her legs and blasted towards Jukwon with a strong wind. With a boom, the earth collapsed instantly, and huge cracks spread like cobwebs. The surrounding sand and rocks, just 1 foot, caused a small area of violent earthquake. The ground is completely invisible, as if it has been bombarded by artillery. Jukwon was hit head-on, and before he could react, half of his body had already been knocked into the ground. Seeing this, Tsunade was overjoyed. Her attack just now was just to force Jukwon to move, consume his physical strength, and get more information by the way. After all, in Tsunade's eyes, Jukwon was already a strong person with shadow level strength like himself. The combat experience possessed by a shadow level powerhouse is almost impossible to be hit by this simple blow. But now that he hit, and he also controlled Koizumi, Tsunade was only an unexpected surprise. I thought so in my heart, but I was not slow at all. As soon as Koizumi pulled out a leg, Tsunade had already rushed in front of him, and then punched him hard. The fist smashed towards Jukwon with a wind and wave visible to the naked eye, but Jukwon did not resist at all, but just pulled out his other leg with his own care. Tsunade subconsciously felt strange, but he couldn't tell what was strange, and chakra broke out in his fists, and he couldn't allow her to hesitate. In the next instant, Tsunade hit Koizumi hard, striking his entire left half. The body shattered and broke away from the body. Only the right half of the head remains. There is a fear of blood, for fear of the body. The body was stained with blood and hurriedly retreated. Tsunade retreated more than 10 meters before stopping, looking at only half of his body in horror. Body, but still standing 9 springs. This battle surprised her incomparably, judging from the strength of this mysterious person just now, how to say that he should have a shadow-level strength. How could a shadow-level powerhouse be killed by himself so simply? No, could it be a shadow doppelganger? But why hasn't the shadow doppelganger disappeared yet? However, the next scene almost scared Tsunade instantly. I said, Tsunade, you don't have this power, do you? Only half of the body remains. Jukwon, who was physically physical, suddenly opened his mouth to ask, and the mocking tone seemed to be as if it was not him who was injured. Tsunade looked from the wound, and there was not a drop of blood at all, not even internal organs, and only cells seemed to exist all over the body. And that wound is recovering at a speed that can be seen with the naked eye. The speed is so fast, just a few breaths between breaths, Jukwon's body. The body has recovered as before, and even the black robe has recovered on its own. Tsunade couldn't wait to keep his eyes out at the moment. She had lived for decades, this situation was simply unheard of, unseen. It's not that she hasn't heard of the immortal body, but such a weird body. She is still seeing it for the first time. Who the hell are you? No, what the hell are you, what is it? Quote. Who the hell are you? No, what the hell are you, what is it? Quote. At the moment, Tsunade couldn't keep calm and asked in fear. This kind of body that has a faster recovery speed than oneself and is almost immortal is simply a plug-in. Introduction. My name is Jukwon. Jukwon responded. HMPH, no matter what you are, I don't believe you really can't kill. Tsunade forced himself to remain calm and attacked again. The strange force unleashed, and the entire upper body of Jukwon was shattered with one punch, and pieces of minced meat were scattered everywhere. Tsunade, who knew that Jukwon had no blood, did not have any concerns about hemophobia, and opened and closed his hand widely, not ready to give Jukwon a chance to breathe at all. But reality, once again doused Tsunade's illusions. A few seconds later, the restored 9 springs stood in front of her eyes again. Is it just that little bit of power? Come and hit me. Quote. Koizumi gave a mean smile and ticked his finger at Tsunade. You will pay a terrible price for what you say. Tsunade's violent temper, how could he stand such a blunt teasing drama? What intelligence, what tactics, in front of the furious Tsunade, she just wants to kill the fool in front of her. In this way, Tsunade continued to smash the 9 springs. However, Koizumi kept being reborn, and he didn't fight back, and kept smiling at Tsunade. That look was like teasing his prey. I don't know that after dozens of times, Tsunade finally stopped because of his lack of physical strength, and looked at the intact Jukwon in front of him with anger, and the anger was fierce. From the very beginning, it took about 3 seconds for Jukwon to fully recover. And now, in less than a second, Jukwon was completely restored. Quieting down and thinking about it, Tsunade was even more shocked. Isn't this person running out of energy and unable to recover? What the hell are you? Humans definitely don't have such a body. Tsunade asked in a lost voice, unable to remain calm any longer. Just imagine, how terrifying is a monster that is comparable to itself in strength, but has never been able to kill. As you say, I am not a fragile creature like human beings, and you may not believe it, but in this world, I am God. Jukwon made a gesture of hugging the sky, but his mouth was saying something that Tsunade sounded incomparably secondary. Oh, if you are sick in the second middle school, don't come out and make trouble. Although I am known as the Holy Hand of Healing, I can only heal the body. Physical pain, mental retardation and so on are completely helpless. Quote. The corners of Tsunade's mouth jumped slightly, and he always felt that the young man in front of him who was about 20 years old was a funny. That is, he was just angered by a tease. Lie down, give me back the old lady's expression. Thinking of this, Tsunade wanted to cry without tears, and a tease who couldn't die, could it be that he was also a tease? However, the most medical ninja, Tsunade thinks that he knows 7788 about the creatures of this world. But today, I encountered an unknown creature like Jukwon, and the long-hidden curiosity was ignited again. She decided to take a good look at this mysterious creature. Retarded. Jukwon didn't know that he was being targeted by his prey, but his attention was drawn to the previous sentence. Woman, it seems that you don't know anything about power, but you will pay for your ignorance. Jukwon tilted his head and said with a smile. But in Tsunade's eyes, this is just the Tsunere of Nakaji's illness. Looking at Tsunade's, I understand, expression, Koizumi felt very bad, so he decided to fight back. With a hook of her hands, the cells that had been smashed to the ground by Tsunade before all fused together and floated behind her. At what cost? Tsunade still didn't know what was going on behind him, and since he felt that Koizumi was a middle school sickness, he didn't seem to have the feeling of facing a big enemy. Nature is the price of blood, Jukwon said, and his hands suddenly clenched. After thinking about it, although the system issued the task, it did not say how to complete the task. That's only first. The fused cells instantly turned into a long rope that bound Tsunade. Tsunade's side also subconsciously used all the strange power to fight, but helplessly found that it had no effect at all. The unbelieving man tried again, but the rope still didn't move, and Tsunade had the feeling of facing his fear again. And she even found that the look in Jukwon's eyes when he looked at her was getting more and more wrong. As if sensing something, Tsunade finally asked with some resignation, "What is the price of blood?" Quote. Just like this, Jukwon came over with a smile and demonstrated it with practical actions. A moment later, a little plum blossom suddenly splashed in midair. Tsunade was in pain, and suddenly opened his eyes and snorted. At the same time, Jukwon's mind also sounded a system prompt sound. Congratulations on the side quest, complete. Mission reward. 8,000 energy, God level adjustable small toys. God level adjustable small toys. After each use, the controller will increase a certain degree of dependence. After listening to the introduction, Jukwon was speechless again. This Nima is a God level Majin Buu system. I think it's a system, right? But soon Koizumi gave up complaining, and now was not the time to exchange his abilities, so he refocused his attention on Tsunade. The current Tsunade clenched his silver teeth, plus he had consumed a lot of physical strength just now, and was lying on the ground staring weakly at Jukwon. Because of what she had just experienced, she was now full of shame. Koizumi pinched Tsunade's chin, looked at her with a smile, and said, "Don't worry, we still have a long time." Quote. Kill me, or I will definitely slaughter you. Tsunade snapped. However, the threat was of no use, at least Jukwon was not affected in the slightest. Then, an electric current flashed, making Tsunade subconsciously feel that it was going to be bad. Idiot. Although Tsunade was shouting and cursing in his heart, his face was forbearing. Can you barely hold on to first gear? How about trying the second gear? Quote. Jukwon saw that as one of the three ninjas, Tsunade's endurance was naturally different from ordinary people, so he decided to add some material. What the? Quote. Finally, Tsunade couldn't hold back any longer. What should I do if I can't hold on? Then there is only a complete collapse, and a distance. Your reaction is typical of verbal integrity. Seeing this, Jukwon laughed seriously. You're going to die. Tsunade, who had slowed down his senses, where could he endure this when he heard this? She immediately raised her fist and hit Jukwon again, but did not use strange power. Even Tsunade himself was very strange, obviously he wanted to kill this guy. But when it comes to reality, it is a little reluctant. Looking at the man in front of her, she inexplicably had a hint of, it's not bad to be with this guy. There is no good end to the mouth, so let me see how powerful your mouth is. Quote. After speaking, Jukwon picked up Tsunade's head that was powerless to resist and covered it under him. Woohoo. Well, Tsunade really wanted to kill him at this time. Shizune walked aimlessly down the street. Originally she was going to go back to the casino to find Tsunade-sama after buying a supper. But after she went back, she didn't even see a shadow, and when she asked others, she mostly didn't know. So Shizune was about to go outside the town to look for it, but halfway there, she saw a scene that made her drop her jaw. I saw Tsunade holding the arm of a man shrouded in a black robe, slowly walking inside from outside the town. Shizune only felt that his worldview, outlook on life, and values for many years collapsed in an instant, commonly known as destroying the three views. What's with Tsunade-sama's shy expression? What kind of twisting walking posture is it about? What about the image of Tsunade-sama's female man? The little woman style is decisive and not for you. Jukwon, spare me. If it is found by mute. Tsunade tried to pretend that nothing had happened as he quietly begged Koizumi for mercy. She also didn't understand what was wrong with her, being treated so shamefully, obviously she should be very annoying. But the truth was quite the opposite, she could clearly feel that she enjoyed this state. This enjoyment is not under her control, but the body involuntarily enjoys. Even Tsunade herself did not notice that she had slowly begun to accept Koizumi's behavior. This can't work, it's even more fun to go back to the hotel later. Quote. Koizumi replied with a friendly smile, decisively ignoring Tsunade's plea for mercy. After a slight pause, he pointed ahead again and asked, "What you said is silent, shouldn't it be her?" Quote. Tsunade was startled and hurriedly followed Koizumi's line of sight. Sure enough, I saw a flat girl with short black hair and a kimono running towards him, and he was very conspicuous in the crowd. Don't ask why it's conspicuous, you are idle and shopping with a pig, and it will also become the focus of everyone. In short, after seeing the silence, Tsunade broke out in a cold sweat. You know, she still has a strange prop on her, and she keeps buzzing. Stop it, if I'm discovered, I'll definitely be muted as a pervert. At this moment, Tsunade even spoke in a tone of weakness, which showed how nervous she was. I've already lowered you back to a gear, as long as you endure a little harder, you will definitely not be discovered, don't talk, she's here. Jukwon smiled honey again, and replied slowly. You abominable bad guy. Tsunade rolled his eyes angrily when he heard this. She found out that every time Jukwon showed a honey smile, someone was definitely unlucky. Of course, this hapless person is always herself. As he spoke, Shizune had already walked up to Koizumi and Tsunade. I saw that she took a deep breath and quickly complained, Tsunade-sama, you are running away again. Can't you tell me about it in advance if you go somewhere else? Looks like I lost my money again. Running errands wants me to go, losing money wants me to pad, and my life is bleak all day. Quote. It came up with a lot of complaints, and you can imagine what kind of days Shizune usually lives. When she vented all the accumulated slots, she asked Jukwon after realizing it, may I ask you? Quote. Introduce yourself, I'm Tsunade's friend from many years ago, just call me Koizumi. Jukwon greeted with a smile, and naturally shook hands with Shizune by the way. Hello, hello. Although Shizune didn't show anything on the surface, he always felt that something was wrong there. Friends from years ago. I had been following Tsunade-sama for many years and had never heard of the existence of Kusen. And looking at the posture of the two holding arms, how is it not as simple as friends? Tsunade's face turned red, and he weakly held Koizumi's arm, making Shizune even more puzzled. Kusen touched Tsunade at the right time. This made Tsunade understand and explain, that's right. Jukwon is my friend many years ago, and he is also an unknown strong man, ha, ha ha. After that, she also laughed a few times to hide her embarrassment. Jukwon shook his head helplessly, this is only one gear, he endured so hard, what big thing can he do? Shizune didn't care about it, maybe because of his trust in Tsunade, or because he felt that the matter itself was not a big deal, and politely bowed to Jukwon. Lord Jukwon, please advise me more when we meet for the first time. Quote. You're welcome, just call me Jukwon. In fact, I also have a question I want to ask you, I don't know if it's inconvenient. Jukwon said curiously. What problem? Shizune wondered. Your last name is Kato, I wonder if you've heard of a senior named Takashi. Huh, Shizune's little head was a little confused, but he felt that Tsunade-sama's friend had been saying things that he had never heard before. What is the secret of the ninja world? I always feel that if I continue to study, something very amazing will happen. However, in comparison, Shizune still felt that Koizumi was a relatively normal one among the people Tsunade-sama knew. Otherwise, you go and see Jiraiya. If it's not enough, there is a big snake pill. Really don't know anything. It has to be said that ignorance is also a kind of happiness. Quote. Looking at Shizune who had not answered for a long time, Jukwon looked at her with a pitying look. IQ insulted. And what's with this look of care for the mentally retarded? Well, Tsunade-sama knows no one who is normal. Shizune looked at Jukwon with a black line in his head, choosing silence. And Jukwon's side thought of the long-known eagle-old driver, but suddenly had a new inspiration. He quietly turned the knob of the controller and adjusted it from first gear to second gear. I didn't expect that for Tsunade, it was more than an immediate result. It's an instant explosion. If it weren't for Jukwon still supporting her, I'm afraid she would have fallen to the ground a long time ago. Shizune naturally also noticed the change in Tsunade, and hurriedly asked with concern, "Tsunade-sama, what's wrong with you?" Quote, "No, it's okay, it's just a little uncomfortable, just go back to the hotel and rest." Tsunade, who was weak-hearted, hurriedly replied intermittently, even though he could not say the whole thing. "I'm afraid that if I slow down a little, I will be silenced again to see what the problem is." Jukwon was dark on the side, but he didn't expect that as a strong woman, there was such an unknown side. Now she is still a shy girl in love. "Tsunade-sama, are you really okay?" Looking at Tsunade's performance, Shizune only thought that something had happened to Tsunade before, and asked worriedly. But Tsunade didn't know how to answer at all, and the current situation didn't allow her to think of excuses. "Just now I met a person called Orochimaru. Tsunade accidentally hit the trick, and now it has been suppressed. I believe it will be good to rest for one night." Jukwon came out in time to relieve the siege. "So that's the case, then Tsunade-sama, please hurry back to the hotel and rest." In this way, Yuzun led the way in front, and Koizumi helped Tsunade towards the hotel. Back at the inn, Koizumi stayed in Tsunade's house on the grounds of reminiscing. Although Shizune was surprised, he did not doubt Tsunade's understanding of his personality. Silently closed the door, leaving space for the two to catch up. "Let me go, didn't you just now, what else do you want me to do?" Quote. Seeing that terrible honey smile appeared in Koizumi again, Tsunade immediately provoked. "Just now you went through the second gear, you know what the effect is. If you can't satisfy me, maybe I will use the third gear. What will happen then, I don't dare to guarantee." Jukwon sat lazily on the sofa, not in a hurry at all. Because he was sure that Tsunade would comply. Sure enough, Tsunade only hesitated for a moment before making his final choice. Like a cannon fodder about to go to the battlefield, she walked to Jukwon with a full of tragedy, ready to solve it with her hands. "What are you going to do?" Jukwon was not satisfied. "You didn't say to be full, satisfy you." Quote. Tsunade was confused and didn't know what was wrong. "You have to know how to use your strengths." Jukwon's gaze glanced down and replied meaningfully. Tsunade, who was not yet known why, followed someone's line of sight and looked down. Instantly understand. She immediately shook her head quickly and refused. No, I won't do this way." Quote. "Won't it? I'll teach you." Quote. One day, one night. When Tsunade couldn't even beg for mercy, Koizumi stopped his conquest. At this time, she rolled her eyes, as if she had broken down. For his own battle results, Jukwon can only sigh, worthy of the physique of Majin Buu. Not only is the endurance like a monster, but the resilience is even stronger. It seems that there are still 8,000 energies coming. Remembering his reward, Jukwon sat up refreshed and opened the system exchange interface. With his current combat power, ordinary abilities are useless. But good ability is a little expensive, can't afford to change. After thinking about it, Jukwon still decided to exchange the air dance technique first, although it ran quickly, but it was not as convenient as flying after all. 5,000 points of energy were squandered in an instant, and Jukwon also mastered all the abilities of the dancing void art. With 3,000 points of energy left, Jukwon didn't think of anything to exchange for the time being, so he saved it. Look at the time, the sun has just risen. Jukwon, who has worked hard for a night, still has plenty of physical strength, but he can't bear to be sleepy. With a sigh, he simply held Tsunade and slept back to sleep. Not long after Koizumi fell asleep, Tsunade's eyelids moved and he woke up. Remembering last night's madness made Tsunade both satisfied and terrified. This guy in front of him is really not a human. How can a normal person have been doing that kind of thing all night? Even if you are as strong as yourself, you will eventually lose consciousness. Thinking of this, Tsunade couldn't wait to drill a hole in the ground and never see anyone again. Especially not to see this bad guy again. After a little shyness, Tsunade, who had calmed down, immediately prepared to take a shower. As a result, she was just about to get up, but she was surprised to find that she was being held by Jukwon. What to do? He was also tired last night, so don't wake him up. What are you worried about this bad guy? Feeling the breath of a man in Jukwon, Tsunade finally did not move, buried his head in Juquan's arms again, and fell into a deep sleep. I don't know how long it took. There was a knock on the door. Tsunade-sama, it's already noon, hurry up and get ready for lunch. A muted voice came from outside the door. At this moment, the two sleeping people woke up. Tsunade was suddenly startled, and instantly pulled over a quilt and covered himself. Juquan got up without hurry, faded the stained cells on his body, and retransformed into a black robe to put on, and the whole person was completely new. Well, it's better than bathing. Click. The door was opened from the outside, and Tsunade subconsciously shrunk his head. She remembered that after closing the door last night, she forgot to lock it. Good noon, Juquan, huh? Koizumi, why are you in Tsunade-sama's room? Quote. Muzun subconsciously felt that the situation was not quite right, and seemed to have discovered something amazing. Tsunade and I haven't seen each other for a long time, but I didn't expect her to have a bad habit of gambling, so I kept educating her last night, but she was very stubborn and actually fell asleep later. Juquan said nonsense seriously. Tsunade continued to pretend to sleep very cooperatively, echoing in his head, to die. Die, die. Suddenly, Shizun's expression became extremely serious, and he said seriously, Juquan-kun, please don't be discouraged, you must continue to work hard and educate Tsunade-sama more. She actually believed it. Doesn't it mean that the fierce is brainless? Shizun, this poor girl actually. It seems that God not only closed a door for you, but also sealed the window. Juquan couldn't help but look at Shizun again with a caring gaze for the mentally retarded. If Tsunade-sama doesn't gamble, then my salary will no longer have to help Tsunade-sama pay off debts, Koizumi-kun. As long as you succeed, I am willing to treat you to a big meal with a month's salary. Quote. Shizun didn't care about Juquan's strange gaze, she seemed to see hope, and her eyes shone and added. Tsunade, what the hell did you do to this girl to make her feel so deeply resentful? Juquan helplessly looked at Tsunade, who was still pretending to sleep, but found that her whole person was almost blackened. After lunch, at Koizumi's suggestion, Tsunade and Shizun packed their bags and prepared to return to Konoha. Shizun admired Koizumi even more. You know, Konoha is Tsunade's sad place. In front, there is the death of Kato and his own brother Rope Tree, and behind it, there is the Konoha elder group and the roots of Danzo who are secretly making trouble. It can be said that the first ninja village founded by Senjukuma is now a strong and powerful outsider, and it exists in name only. Many powerful ninjas, instead of dying in the mission, died under the political struggle of the same village. It was because he didn't want to watch Konoha village decay step by step that Tsunade chose to run away to escape all this. Now that he has changed his mind by Koizumi's words, it seems that Tsunade-sama is expected to quit gambling. In other words, now that the Third Ninja World War is over, not long after Watergate succeeds Hokage, Orochimaru has also defected. On the way, Tsunade explained the current timeline to Koizumi in detail. That's it, now the major ninja villages are recuperating, although there are still some Xiaomo in the secret. Wipe, but no big problem. Shizun interjected. So, Juquan rubbed his chin, according to the current situation, there are still many maneuverables. After all, there are at least 12 years left before the start of the official mission plot, and there is no need to rush everything. Not to mention more, let's rush to Konoha according to the original plan. After making his decision, Koizumi put Tsunade's hand on his back. Hey, what are you doing? Quote. Tsunade was shocked, thinking that Koizumi was going to do something bad again. After all, Shizun was still here. Walking too slowly, I'll take you back to Fly. Juquan replied. Fly, X2. Two question marks popped up on Tsunade and Shizun's heads. Is this something humans can do? Only silence remained, and he couldn't help but pick her up, and Juquan slowly floated into the sky. Wait a minute. Quote. Shizun was still held in the arms of a man for the first time, and before she could object, she found that she really flew. As usual, she didn't feel it, but suddenly she rose to a height of 100 meters, only to find that she was afraid of heights. For a while, regardless of any shyness, she hugged Juquan tightly, as if only by grabbing this man could she feel at ease. Quote. Seeing this, Tsunade frowned and opened his mouth, but said nothing. Maybe Shizun is really scared. Tsunade comforted herself inexplicably, but in the moment just now, she already felt a huge sense of crisis. Holding Juquan's hand, he subconsciously tightened. That's ready, we're going. Boom. Juquan suddenly accelerated, bringing up a wave of chi and galloping away. Ah! Scream X2. After flying all afternoon, passing a lake, Juquan stopped to prepare something to eat before going on the road. When he lowered back to the ground, he found that the two people on his body had lost their voice. Tsunade trembled down from Kusan's back, pale with fright. If it weren't for his good physique, I'm afraid he wouldn't even be able to stand on his feet at this time. And the silence in his arms is not as strong as Tsunade's physique. Due to the flight speed, the brain is deprived of oxygen. Coupled with too much excitement, Shizune has fainted gorgeously. If Juquan flies a little longer, I am afraid that after returning to Konoha, a silent funeral can be held. If you faint without oxygen, artificial respiration should work. Koizumi was holding Shizune and was about to take rescue measures, but was interrupted by Tsunade. Let her go and let me come. Tsunade hurriedly stopped. They must not be allowed to have close contact. This was Tsunade's only thought at the moment, if watching the two kiss together. Well, although it was just artificial respiration, Tsunade still felt uncomfortable. If Juquan knew Tsunade's thoughts, I would probably have to cry out for wrong. I really just want to save people. Okay, here you go then. Juquan thought about it. Anyway, both of them are women, so they don't mind. Hiss, phew. Although Tsunade is not used to it, in order not to let Koizumi mute cheap. She was ruthless, so she pointed her mouth directly at it. Ha, Shizune was poured into a big breath, like a dying person in the desert meeting water, not to mention how satisfied it was. It's just that every time Tsunade looks up to breathe, the short interval makes her feel very uncomfortable. So he muted in a daze and subconsciously hugged Tsunade's head with his small hand. It was so hanging, I almost didn't faint. Tsunade with me. You guy, give me enough to stop. Some of the hypoxic Tsunade struggled out, and immediately gave Shizune a heavy brain crash. The head hurts. Quote, Shizune, who was hit hard, woke up slowly, and saw Tsunade looking at him unkindly, and said inexplicably, Tsunade-sama, what happened? Quote, this is what makes Tsunade angriest. After all, kissing with Shizune or something, she can't say clearly. Otherwise, how will you get along in the future? Do you want to face? And all this is in full view of Juquan. In the end, he couldn't help but sigh, Lily Dafa is good. Quote, smoke rises from the lake, and a few fish make a moisturizing sound on the campfire, which makes people can't help but move. However, no one spoke, and the scene was shrouded in a very strange atmosphere. Just when the three people on the shore had their own thoughts, a huge shadow appeared below the surface of the lake. Suddenly, the behemoth stood up from the surface of the water, and its 100-meter-tall body stood majestically. What caught the eyes of the three was a gray mud turtle-like monster with 3 tails, which was the 3-tailed Isofu. As a tailed beast, its perception of energy is much stronger than that of ordinary people, and it can naturally feel that Juquan contains huge energy. For Mio, this is a feeling that has not been felt in many years. If you can absorb this group of energy, I believe that even the 9 tails will no longer be his opponent. Oops, it's Mio. Silence, back away. Tsunade instructed immediately. For the unkillable existence of Juquan, Tsunade was not worried. Because she believed that even if everyone died, Juquan would be safe and sound. Tsunade-sama, that's a tailed beast, even you can't help it. Shizune stopped in front of Tsunade and made up his mind. With my strength, I may only be able to hold it for a few seconds. Juquan, please take Tsunade-sama to fly out of here immediately, please. Quote, Tsunade and Shizune have been together for many years, how could they not hear Shizune holding the determination to die? And he was a little moved in his heart, but he still said with a serious face, I am Konoha Sanshin, this is an order, you go quickly with Koizumi, I can stay alone. Quote, for Mio, the goal is only Koizumi. Tsunade and Shizune's argument made it a little irritated, and he raised his huge claws to shoot at them. Finished. Tsunade couldn't leave with silence, so he could only pour chakra into his hands and unleash strange power to resist. However, in the face of the sudden attack of the 3 tails, she didn't even have time to prepare, and how powerful could the monster power be exerted? Pong! The smoke and dust exploded in a loud noise. Did you die without even feeling pain? Pity, I'll never see that fool again. Tsunade, is it really okay for me to say that you ignore my existence like that? Hearing familiar words in his ears, Tsunade suddenly opened his eyes. As the smoke and dust dispersed, Juquan's figure gradually became clear in front of him. I saw Juquan standing in front of her, one hand raised high, blocking the powerful blow of the three tails. At this moment, Tsunade admitted that he had indeed sunk. Although he is heroic and strong on the surface, he is more forced by the aura infused from childhood. As the granddaughter of the original Hokage, a disciple of the third Hokage, Sanshin, and Princess Konoha, the identities of ordinary people who seemed to be extremely glorious were all imposed on her, making her breathless. But in the end, she is just a woman, and deep down she also hopes to have a strong man to rely on, which is nature. Now the 9 springs just satisfied all this. Tsunade only felt a stream of heat, flowing straight down from her heart, and she shied. Juquan, it's so strong. Shizune was stunned to watch this scene. The person who could fight with the tailed beast in terms of strength, this was the only one she had ever seen. Even Mio Isofu was a little unbelievable. For the first time there was a human who could lean on. The body blocks its own blow. Human, where did that energy come from in you? If I say it, I can consider not killing you. Quote. Retracting his claws, the three-tailed expression also became solemn, and he was ready to set up a set of words first, understand clearly before making a move. Don't kill me. Yes, not to kill you. Mio also thought that Koizumi wanted to explain honestly, and strengthened his tone to reconfirm the side. Juquan, don't say the secret of your strength, the three tails will not let you go, you just need to delay it a little for a while, and when I unlock the yin seal, you will run quickly with silence, I will buy you more time. Tsunade whispered in Kusan's ear. Although he knew that Koizumi was comparable to Mio in strength, Tsunade still did not think that Koizumi could fight Mio. You know, the most terrifying thing about tailed beasts is not the power of their bodies, but the chakra they contain. The huge amount of chakra allows the tailed beast to send out ninjutsu comparable to A-level power at will, and even S-level tailed beast Jade. That's really enough to crack the landslide. Tsunade, let me ask you something. Juquan looked at the grilled fish that had been dirty and frowned. What, do you like turtle meat? Generally, ha, quote. What turtle meat? He wouldn't be thinking. Yes, he must have wanted to eat the three tails. Tsunade looked like he had heard it wrong. In this case, shouldn't he run for his life? You also worked hard last night, make up for you, remember to treat me well when you come back. Juquan put on a honey smile again and said seriously. Tsunade saw that smile, and the body. The body subconsciously twitched, as if forming an instinctive reaction. It was this terrifying smile that appeared again. For ordinary people, this is an ordinary smile, but for Tsunade, it can be remembered. For the first time, she paid in blood. The second time, she almost fell out in front of Shizune, and was, fainted at night. Anyway, Juquan showed this kind of smile, and it was always her who was unlucky. But this time, Tsunade looked at the three tails. Could it be that there were any whole cards in Koizumi that were useless? If this is the case, then it should not be himself who is unlucky this time, right? Human, you will pay for your disrespectful words. Mio doesn't know so much, but he knows that he has been insulted like a dish. Shuoden Isoji Iron Cannonball. It may be the reason for the rage, and it is this A-level powerful ninjutsu. The huge stream of water condensed into cannonballs and shot towards the 9 springs. Tsunade asked herself, without unsealing the yin seal, it would be absolutely impossible for her to take this ninjutsu head-on, otherwise she would be immortal and crippled. As for Shizune, not to mention, although this ninjutsu is not aimed at her, she can still feel the strong pressure in it. After all, the ninjutsu sent by the tailed beast with a huge chakra is not comparable to ordinary ninjas. Ordinary one hit, diametrically opposed to the three tails, Koizumi lazily threw a punch in response. This punch used 3% of his strength. Boom. The water of the three tails was instantly shattered, forming a splash in the sky. Liar, lie to people. Quote. Shizune looked stunned. This scene simply subverted her cognition of physical skills. Even Tsunade was surprised. although she knew that when Koizumi fought against her before, she did not use her full strength. But seeing that Jukwon is now fighting against the Three Tails, he is also not using his full strength. How powerful is this man? It can actually break the A-level ninjutsu issued by the tailed beast with one punch. Seeing this scene, Miao also calmed down a little. In its opinion, this human being in front of it is indeed very strong, and it can break through ninjutsu with one punch. But what is the biggest advantage of the tailed beast? It's that huge amount of chakra. You don't have to care about waste when using ninjutsu, and grinding can also grind enemies to death. Shuoden Isoji Iron Cannonball. This time, Mio learned to be smart, and in just a few breaths, it sent out 50 water ninjutsu in succession. Jukwon looked at it, and the sky was covered with very huge and highly concentrated water bombs. Is that the only way? It's really. Jukwon pouted and shook his fist again in response. Continuous ordinary striking. The speed is so fast that it leaves a full 50 afterimages in the air, each of which is opposite a water bomb. Even Tsunade was stunned. This speed, it was already a little unclear. Suddenly, all the water bombs were mercilessly shattered and turned into water sprays to return the same way. This can't be. Mio couldn't believe it. It was 50A grade ninjutsu, but the splash on his body reminded him that this was the reality. Sure enough, you don't know anything about power. Seeing this, Jukwon said. Human, don't think that being able to catch A-level ninjutsu is qualified to be arrogant. I will let you see the strongest ability of the tailed beast. As he spoke, Mio had accumulated a huge chakra ball in his mouth, and it was even growing rapidly. Then have you heard of turtle sect Qigong? Jukwon responded. In order not to affect Tsunade and Shizune, he flew high in the air to face the Three Tails, and a huge amount of chi gathered between his hands. It's that energy. The chi gathered by the 9 springs made all Three Tails feel palpitations. Although it knew that the energy was not chakra, it still did not dare to take it lightly, and successively increased the amount of chakra delivered to the tailed beast Jade. At this moment, it just wanted to quickly kill Jukwon to eliminate future troubles. Human, die. In an instant, the tailed beast Jade grew to an extreme point and sent it towards Jukwon. Turtle Pie Qigong. This time, Jukwon used Sanchung's chi. Originally he wanted to directly increase the output to directly kill Sanwei, and then absorb it. However, according to the system prompt, if the Three Tails die, their chakra will disappear quickly, which will be discounted. So Jukwon still decided to beat it to death, and then slowly absorb it. In the blink of an eye, the attacks of both sides had collided together, and 2 huge balls of energy violently impacted. The aftermath of the collision between the turtle sect Qigong and the tailed beast Jade spread, causing the nearby land to sink. The lake spread, and the entire lake moored by half again. The tailed beast Jade gradually decreased in the consumption of the collision, and it was about to collapse. Seeing this, Mio's sense of fear that he didn't know for many years instantly surfaced in his mind. Tailed beast Jade, it is already its strongest attack method as a tailed beast. If the tailed beast Jade is useless, then it really doesn't have any means of attack. However, Mio is very glad that his defense is high. Even if he can't fight, the human in front of him can't help himself. Finally, the chakra of the tailed beast Jade was exhausted, and it was instantly dispersed by the turtle sect Qigong, and the residual power rushed towards it unabated. The Three Tails hurriedly contracted their bodies, ready to resist with the proud tortoise shell, which could prevent the 9-tailed beast Jade. You know, the tailed beast Jade emitted by the 9-tailed chakra is not a grade with it. Although after that time, its shell was also damaged, and it took a while to recover. Sure enough, the turtle faction Qigong hit the shell of the Three Tails fiercely, although it caused some loss, but the turtle shell could still hold on, and did not really hurt it. Seeing this, Mio was overjoyed and prepared to dive to the bottom of the lake. As long as it is in the water, even if this man is strong, he can't help himself. Not bad. Quote, Jukwon saw that his trick did not break the defense. Not only was he not depressed, but he was very happy. Originally, I just wanted to absorb some chakra, but I didn't expect that there was actually an unexpected gain. As long as he absorbs the Three Tails, I am afraid that in the Hokage world, if he wants to break his defenses, he must at least start with S-level ninjutsu. Imagine that the enemy has gone through a lot of hardships, and finally injured himself, and before he could rejoice, the next second he recovered. This Mian Juquan is very cool to think about. At that moment, Juquan increased the degree of output and used a full 50% of chi. Click. Before the three tails could react, the shell that it was hit by the turtle fighting sect Qigong finally couldn't resist cracking. A large amount of chi instantly penetrated the crack and penetrated the body of the three tails. How so? Quote, Mio looked at his injured body in disbelief. The body has been fragmented by chi. It couldn't understand why the human attack in front of it could actually be enhanced. I have long said that you know nothing about power, but you don't believe it. Anyway, I know that you can be resurrected, then your current body, just use it for me. Quote. Juquan had a big smile on his face and said sincerely. What do you want to do? Mio's terrified subconscious wanted to retreat, but the injury in his body made it impossible to move at all. If the heavens give it another chance to choose, it will definitely not dare to dangle on the surface again. Sting. Juquan turned his hand into a knife and brought down a piece of flesh and blood from Mio's body. Weigh the weight, it should be enough to eat. Then he stretched out his other hand and spread out a large clump of cells. That mass of cells floated in the air and kept dividing, getting bigger and bigger. In a short time, the sunlight has been completely obscured. I didn't want to do anything, I just ate you. Saying that, Juquan held his hand, and the mass of cells completely wrapped the huge body of the three tails, forming a ball. As if it could compress space, the ball began to shrink. It wasn't until it shrunk to the size of 9 springs that it returned to him. Feeling the abundant chakra in his body, Juquan couldn't help but burp. Also as an energy, although chakra is not as pure as chi, it is divided into attributes and can use various ninjutsu. The worst thing, Juquan can now also be used as a personal chakra charging treasure. Moreover, chakra is also stained with the price of 8,000 energy points in the system exchange, just like picking it up for nothing. After taking a picture on the surface of the lake, he found that after absorbing the three tails, his appearance did not change, and Koizumi flew back to Tsunade and Shizune with confidence. Tsunade, what are you doing? Punch me with strange power and see my defenses. Juquan said, looking at Tsunade, who had become demented. Do you know what you did? Tsunade shook his head, forcing himself to calm down. Juquan not only defeated the three tails single-handedly, but also looked like he was at ease. Especially the last picture, which deeply shocked her. It seems that Juquan absorbed the three tails. This man, how strong is it? Lord Kusan, you are so strong, I feel stronger than Naruto-sama. Silent, who came back to her senses, admired, and the respect for the strong made her unconsciously use honorifics. Oh, it's just a tailed beast, what? Quote. Juquan scratched his head. Having watched the anime, he knew that in the late Hokage, tailed beasts were basically used to abuse. However, Juquan ignored the point that in the early stage of Hokage, the tailed beast could exist as a war weapon in the major ninja villages. Even the Hokage had to perform the deadly forbidden technique of ghoul sealing during this period to seal the tailed beast. Invisible pretense is the most deadly. Hearing the indifference in Juquan's words, not only Tsunade but also Mute completely became Juquan's little fangirl. After stewing the turtle soup, the three of them set out on their journey back to Konoha again. This time, Shizune said that he did not dare to fly again. Tsunade thought about it, but also rejected the offer to fly, and walked instead. As for the reason, I'm afraid only she knows it. In this way, the trip is much slower, and the distance that could have been reached in a while is estimated to be until midnight. Konoha Village, late at night. Unlike usual, tonight's Konoha fire burst into the sky, bright as day. A huge fox is roaring and raging in the village, and its 9 tails are swinging at will, only a slight sweep, and the mountain is shaken. Anyone who has seen Naruto knows that this is where it all began, the Night of the 9 Tails. Shui Duan, the art of water dragon bullets. Quote, water array. A group of ninjas, including those in the dark part, kept shuttling under its huge body, dodging and releasing ninjutsu. But helplessly, offensive ninjutsu is useless against the 9 tails, and defensive ninjutsu is useless against themselves. Can't hold it anymore, hasn't Naruto-sama arrived yet? A ninja asked his companion not far away, but before anyone could answer, he was engulfed in the huge flames spit out by the nine tails. At this moment, Konoha has turned into a battlefield, and there are constantly ninjas sacrificed, but there is no way to take the nine tails. Ordinary ninjutsu is almost ineffective against this demon fox. How come there are still figures walking around the streets? Kakashi, go evacuate the people. Quote. An old Shangren said nervously. At this time, one less person can sacrifice, even if one more survives, even if it is an ordinary person. Yes, a young man with white hair answered the call, and after a few ups and downs, he came to the figure on the street. To Kakashi, it was a strange guy shrouded in black robes, eating a large piece of bacon jerky in his hand. In Konoha village, only the dark department usually wears black, but there is no black robe. Ninja. Ninja who wears this strange costume. Young man, when you stand in front of me, don't you just want to show me a stunned look? The person under the black robe reminded that this person was naturally Jukwon. When he rushed back with Tsunade and Shizune, they were already far away and had already seen the nine tails raging in Konoha. So at Tsunade's request and after signing various shameful treaties, Koizumi sped up and rushed to Konoha village one step ahead. That's the nine tails. This chakra is much stronger than a certain turtle before. From the scene, it looks completely different from the effect produced by manga or anime. Oh, hurry up and take refuge. You also see, this is not something you can participate in. Quote. Kakashi looked at the black-robed man in front of him with a black line. This is the nine-tailed demon fox, isn't he afraid? Refuge. No, no, no. Quote. Jukwon's figure flashed and rushed directly towards the nine tails. So fast, Kakashi didn't see his movements at all, and by the time he reacted, Koizumi's back was already far away. This person is by no means an ordinary person. So what exactly is his purpose? Kakashi, come and help. The shouts of his companions stopped Kakashi, who had wanted to follow. He also knew that the priority at the moment was delayed until Hokage came here. Roar. The nine tails howled angrily, the tail swept unconsciously, a dozen ninjas did not have time to dodge, and seeing that they were about to be crushed alive, infinite despair suddenly rose in their hearts. Pong. I said 9 llamas, why do you have to do so much damage? How about everyone sit down and eat something and talk slowly? 9 springs appeared in front of the group of ninjas, and with a casual wave, blocked the attack of the nine tails falling. The nine tails felt the sense of obstruction on the tail, and when he looked along the tail, he saw a human who blocked his huge tail with one hand. I couldn't help but be more angry. My mouth was open, and a large stream of chakra instantly gathered. It's not good, it's the tailed beast Jade. There are ninjas who are well informed and hurriedly remind their companions to dodge. Tailed beast cannon. Coincidentally, I have it too. Seeing this, Jukwon smiled. Since absorbing the 3 tails, he not only possessed a large amount of chakra, but also changed his body cells. As a result, chakra was continuously produced in Jukwon's body, although it was not as huge as 9 tails, but he was not afraid of waste. The same chakra ball, gathered in the palm of Jukwon's hand, is a bit like a spiral pill, but different from a spiral pill. Boom! The 2-tailed beast cannons instantly converged, and huge circular fluctuations spread. The large impact of Yue made the group of ninjas standing behind Jukwon unsteady. Is this still human power? Quote. They also saw that the black-robed man in front of them came to stop the nine tails, and also had the strength to fight against the nine tails. At this level of battle, they can't get their hands on it at all. Coupled with the impact of the aftermath of the battle, they simply retreated and watched the battle from afar. Seeing that his tailed beast Jade was blocked, Nine Tails was seriously filled with an incredible look, and looked at Nine Springs in shock. The tailed beast cannon just now, although it did not use its full strength, but it was not something that ordinary people could block. Looking at the human in front of him, suddenly, it inexplicably had a familiar aura. Are you a human pillar force? The Nine Tails calmed down and asked with narrowed eyes. Of course not, Jukwon denied. You can't fool me, in you, I smell the same kind of breath. The Nine Tails felt that he had been deceived, and the chakra in his body was even more tyrannical. Well, it's actually about the same. I ate the 3 tails, although you can't drink the soup, but there are still a lot of bacon left, the taste is also good, do you want to have some? Juquan raised the bacon jerky in his hand and asked with a sincere face. That black-robed powerhouse said that the bacon jerky in his hand is 3 tails. Liar, lie, that's a tailed beast. Quote, but with the strength he shows, it is also possible. The ninja's ears are much sharper, and although they are far away, they can also hear the conversation between Koizumi and the Kuo. It seems that this mysterious black-robed powerhouse said that he ate the 3 tails himself. That's a tailed beast. Although shocked by Juquan's strength, many people still expressed doubts. 3 tails. Whether others believe it or not, the 9 tails definitely believe it. Because it noticed that the piece of jerky, the familiar breath contained in it, was indeed 3-tailed. Even though the 9 tails and the 3 tails are not in harmony, they are furious when they see their kind being eaten as roast meat by humans. At this moment, a golden figure instantly appeared in front of Juquan. It was the belated Wave Feng Shui Gate. Seeing the appearance of the water gate, Juquan knew that Obito had been beaten away, but it took a bit of a long time. Your combat power has to increase. It took so long to fight Uchiha, and if it drags on for a while, Konoha will be spoiled. Hearing this, Watergate was shocked. The masked man who fought him just now did call himself Uchiha Madara, but only a few people knew about it. If it weren't for Juquan's obvious help just now, Watergate would have thought that he had something to do with the masked man. Although I don't know who you really are, thank you for helping to delay for so long, and next, I will end all this, Watergate replied firmly. You don't need to cast a ghoul band to send it to death. I have been entrusted by someone. You can have a cup of tea and rest for a while. Later I will let the 9 tails be sealed obediently, just give me its yin chakra. Juquan waved his hand. I know you're strong, but that's the 9 tails. Although I don't know why Juquan understood the technique he was going to perform next, looking at Juquan's confident appearance, Watergate still kindly reminded. I heard that drinking tea is more compatible with bacon, which is made from isofu's meat, and it tastes better. Juquan threw the bacon jerky in his hand to Watergate, and reassured Watergate with practical actions. At the same time, he also moved his hands and feet and made a provocative gesture towards the 9 tails. Iso, the meat of isofu. Watergate looked at the bacon jerky in his hand and looked confused. The 9 tails had long been impatient, and the 2 humans in front of them were talking about how to divide themselves in front of themselves. How could they not let it get angry? Another tailed beast cannon was ready, this time, but it hit with all its might. Give you 2 choices, one is to be sealed obediently, anyway, you will have a day to be released sooner or later. Out of humanitarian spirit, Koizumi still consulted the opinion of the 9 tails. What about 2? The 9 tails, who were rarely angry, actually responded. The second is to let you see the unrivaled power. Juquan raised his hand, and the chi in his palm quickly gathered together. Even the water gate next to it felt the great power contained in it. After all, it is not okay to treat the 9-tailed one-way blow, and it is not okay to use the 3-tailed chakra. Die, arrogant human. Juquan's words, like a bag of explosives, ignited the last sanity of the 9 tails, and the tailed beast Jade instantly blasted towards Juquan. Turtle Pie Qigong. Chapter 11. In this turtle sect Qigong, Juquan used 50% of Qi. The collision of chakra and Qi instantly destroyed a piece of surrounding buildings. On the surface, the 2 energies are evenly matched, and neither has the upper hand. But the tailed beast Jade has a drawback, it is not durable enough. Although Juquan only used 50% of the Qi, it could be continuously output. It is good that a punch with only 50% of the force can be thrown many times in a row. At first, I couldn't see it, but after a few seconds, the tailed beast Jade began to retreat significantly. I actually resisted the tailed beast Jade from the front. And there is no ceiling, a bit like a spiral pill, no. It's even more perfect than spiral pills. Watergate was stunned. No wonder this mysterious black-robed powerhouse let himself go to have a cup of tea to rest. It turned out to be so strong that he didn't need to cooperate with himself at all. Pong. After the tailed beast Jade collapsed, he instantly brought the remnants of chakra to the 9 tails. Roar. The 9 tails were in pain and hurriedly called chakra to protect him, but he was still not lightly injured. Normal series, continuous ordinary random strikes. Because the damage caused by the turtle sect Qigong was too great, Juquan was afraid that one would accidentally kill the Nine Tails, so he directly used only 3% of his strength to start hand-to-hand combat. Naruto without the Nine Tails, or Naruto. But for the Nine Tails, such an attack method is not as good as directly killing it. The human being in front of him is like a prophet, and every time his claws or tail are about to hit him, he can always dodge one step ahead. However, this human being's blow from time to time makes it suffer from time to time. Now the Nine Tails, for the first time, knew that a human being as small as a bug could actually have such a great amount of pure power. Dinner has almost been digested, it's time to settle you, and then go home to sleep. Once again, he wiped the 9 springs in Nine Tails' ears and said softly. What? The Nine Tails was stunned, subconsciously feeling bad, and hurriedly increased the protection of chakra. Is that level of attack actually just consuming food? A slightly more serious punch. Juquan used 50% of his strength to avoid the point, and punched Nine Tails. Wow, the poor chakra coat of the Nine Tails, before it played any protective role, was scattered in an instant. Its huge body was flown up by this punch and landed on a building not far away, and the entire building was instantly flattened. Hokage office building, sudden. Watergate, what are you doing? Stunned, hurry up and ask someone to prepare for the seal. Turning his head, Juquan saw that Shuaman was stunned the whole time, looking like a melon-eating mass, so he pointed to the Nine Tails who had been fainted and said, Oh, okay. Watergate returned to his senses and jumped in front of the Nine Tails. Looking at the Nine Tails, who almost destroyed Konoha village, he now fell in front of him like this, making Watergate feel a little unbelievable until now. Don't forget to strip the yin chakra out for me first. Juquan reminded. I see, please wait. Watergate responded. I disagree. At this time, an abrupt voice interrupted. Juquan frowned and followed the voice, wanting to see who was so eyeless and wanted to snatch his loot. I saw that the person who spoke was dressed in a black and white kimono, and his right eye was covered by white gauze, as if he had the BGM of a villain. Koizumi rolled his eyes. It turned out to be Danzo, the king of the Black Cauldron of Konoha's generation. It would not be surprising if it was Tuanzo who wanted to stop it. Tuan Zhang had also observed for a long time just now, and from the beginning, this black-robed man used powerful ninjutsu to confront the tailed beast Jade and successfully injured the Nine Tails. Until chakra was exhausted, he had to engage in a difficult physical duel with the injured Nine Tails. All this process was completed by the group hiding brain without knowing the actual situation. After all, in his opinion, a ninja without chakra, even if his physical skills are strong, will be greatly negatively affected. If you let Tuan Zhang know that Juquan was only afraid that a wave would directly kill the Nine Tails, he would probably not rush out and offend a strong man who resisted the tailed beast. Before I made a move, I had already made it clear how, now that I have solved it, I want to settle the bill. Such an obvious situation, Juquan naturally saw it. Yes, according to the agreement, we should give yin chakra to this strong man. Watergate also agreed. After all, the appearance of Juquan can be said to have saved his life, so that he will not sacrifice his life to perform the forbidden technique of ghoul sealing. Watergate, you're Hokage now. It needs to be considered from the perspective of Konoha's interests. Quote, Danzo is so angry. If he were Hokage, he would have gathered a group of ninjas and began to control the 9 springs who did not have chakra. Maybe you can develop a powerful ninjutsu that doesn't use seals. Interests also need to be supported by strength. Saying that, a large number of chakras condensed in Juquan's hands, and quickly gathered into a tailed beast jade that was more than 1 person tall. With this level of tailed beast jade, I can still use 100 rounds. I wonder how many rounds Konoha can withstand. Although the 1 person tall tailed beast cannon in Juquan's hand was not as shocking as the real tailed beast, it was also rarely matched by ninjutsu, at least not spiral pill. Tuan Zhang was a little shocked. Didn't he say that there was no chakra? What kind of trouble is such a big mess? But then he suspected that Juquan might have a large amount of chakra itself, so after sending such a powerful ninjutsu, he could still have these amounts of chakra left. Of course, it is estimated that there is only so much left. For the 100-shot statement, Tuan Zhang did not believe it. If it can really be done, isn't it a humanoid tailed beast? But even so, it's surprising enough. But Tuanzang, who was the leader of the route, could not panic, so he had to force himself to calm down and said, Your Excellency said and laughed, if your chakra can launch this level of tailed beast jade 100 more times, why did you use physical skills to fight the 9 tails just now? Quote, Eat a little too much, just consume food. Juquan explained. Your Excellency, although you are very strong, it is not feasible to deceive us as children. Tuanzang's face became more and more gloomy. The reason was simple, Juquan's answer made him feel that he was being tricked. You'd better trust Juquan, because this afternoon, Miao was also killed by him. A beautiful voice sounded from behind the regiment's hideout, and Tsunade arrived. Miao is dead. If someone else said it, Tuanzang might still be skeptical. But when the words came out of Tsunade's mouth, he couldn't help but disbelieve him. But the words have already been said before, so retreat, where is his prestige? I have reservations that the 9 tails are Konoha's final weapon of war and cannot be given to others. At this time, Tuanzang can only bite the bullet. Danzo, if you untie the gauze on your right hand, I'm afraid that all the Uchiha clans will rebel tomorrow. I really don't know what courage you have to dare to speak like this in front of me. Juquan sneered at Tuanzang's gauze-wrapped arm on his right. Shut up. What? Watergate and Tuanzo were taken aback. Danzo-sama, this matter is related to Konoha's safety, please explain. In Watergate's view, Tuanzang's arm wrapped in gauze is indeed suspicious. It's just that what secrets are hidden under that gauze, and he doesn't know anything for the time being. Now I heard Juquan say that this may be related to whether the Uchiha clan defected, so that Watergate paid attention again. Quote exclamation mark. How can you trust an unidentified guy? Quote, Tuanzang looked at Juquan in shock. This matter, he has been operating secretly, and the subordinates who knew about it were also dead. Now that he was pointed out by Juquan, he couldn't help but guess Juquan's identity. Then do you say that the identity of the big snake pill is clear? Juquan asked. Quote exclamation mark quote, X3 ideographic period. Tuanzang, what's going on with the big snake pill? As a former companion, knowing that Danzo's defection with Orochimaru was involved, not only Watergate, but even Tsunade also paid attention to it. The great snake pill has nothing to do with me. Tuanzang's face darkened, and he forcibly explained. I know all those things about you. If these secrets are exposed, I'm afraid you, this time, Juquan did not say it in public, but whispered in his ear, and do you really think that I dare not kill you in Konoha? If you hadn't been of some use, you would have been a corpse by now. Quote, you. Tuanzang was furious, but there was no way to take Juquan. After all, he couldn't beat it, and his secrets were all known. It's up to Naruto-sama to decide this matter. For a long time, Tuanzang sighed and confessed. As for how he explained the Uchiha clan and the big snake pill to Watergate later, it had nothing to do with Juquan. In the residence of the Thousand Hands clan, Juquan was experiencing the huge yin chakra from the 9 tails. That endless stream of huge quantities is more than a little stronger than the 3 tails. As for the 9 tails, at the suggestion of 9 springs, it was still sealed into the newborn Naruto's body. Although Naruto still bears a lot of infamy after experiencing the Night of the 9 Tails, this is the only way for him to grow. And this time, Naruto's parents are still alive, at least life will be much better. Brush. The door was opened from the outside, and the first thing that came into view was a pair of big breasts, followed by Tsunade's figure slowly appearing. Why? Desire and dissatisfaction and want. Koizumi looked at Tsunade with amusement. Tsunade's face turned red and explained, I just wanted to come and ask you, what is Danzo doing in secret? Quote, don't ask me, I don't know. Juquan pretended to be innocent and replied. HMPH, you know everything, just don't say anything. Tsunade sat on the couch and muttered with his little feet dangling. For Tsunade's muttering, Koizumi should not have heard it, but looking at Tsunade's crystal pink little feet, he had an idea again. Do you have stockings at home? Juquan asked. Yes, well, what do you guy want to do? Quote. Tsunade replied subconsciously, but after reacting, he felt that something strange was about to happen. Of course, it's you, but if you play foreplay, let's serve it first, Juquan replied deservedly. Who am I? Where am I? What am I going to do? Every time Tsunade woke up again after being stunned by Koizumi, he would always ask himself so unconsciously. But in the next second, Tsunade came back to his senses, dry mouth. She was bored, and now she just wanted to drink a glass of water quickly. No way, dehydrated again last night. Tsunade now feels ashamed and scared every time he wants to serve Kusan. Shyly, she actually shamelessly felt very satisfied, and the feeling of happiness continued one after another. The scary thing is that this guy is not only as durable as a monster, but also resilient and inhuman. Each shot just ended, and within a few seconds, it was back up and ready to go. Tsunade now wants to find someone to share it, otherwise he will die sooner or later. It seems that mute seems to be interesting to him. Pong! When he got off the chuang, Tsunade's hands and feet slipped inexplicably and fell to the ground. Only then did she realize that her feet had long been stained with unknown suspicious objects. This guy, even here, is not spared, causing the old lady to fall flat early in the morning. Don't take them off, just put on your shoes and keep it this way. Just as Tsunade was about to take off his stockings, there was the sound of Koizumi beating up in his ears. You guy, give the old lady enough time. Tsunade said angrily, but that expression, how to look like Tsunere. Ha! Jukwon snorted lazily. A day in the Hokage world began with tuning. Knock knock. At this time, there was a knock on the door outside. It turned out that Shizune delivered breakfast. At the dinner table, Tsunade ate raw fried in a serious way, but the stockings on his feet did not take off. God knows why she agreed to Jukwon so ashamed. Shameful request, maybe the brain is broken. By the way, I met Naruto-sama just now, let me help and ask by the way, do you want to register as a ninja? Shizune asked. Don't, it's too much trouble, but as long as I can pay enough money, I can accept temporary employment. Jukwon replied. You are so strong that you don't become a ninja, so what do you want to do next? Tsunade heard this and asked curiously. The food here is not quite to my taste, I am going to open a restaurant first. By the way, Jukwon stopped halfway through the sentence, drank his saliva, and asked rhetorically, what do you think I want to do? Quote. I always think that you guy has some premeditated plans, Tsunade pouted after hearing this. In fact, if it was really just that the food was not to your taste, Jukwon would definitely not go to such trouble to open a restaurant. But who let the system publish the task again? Side quest, the industry of the strong. As a strong person, how can you not have your own industry? For the ultimate mission, bravely build your own industry. Note, the type and scale of the industry are not limited. If the host is not faceless, you can also establish a paid public toilet. Mission reward, 2000 energy, 1 spring water medicinal tea. Mission failure. Considered a final mission failure, the host is either immortal loneliness or forced to cuckold. However, to Jukwon's surprise, the reward given by the system this time was quite normal. Although I don't know what spring water medicinal tea is, it's better than god-level adjustable gear jump. Eggs are much more normal. Just as Jukwon was preparing to complete the task, the Hokage office building on the other side looked a little different. To be precise, it is a temporary Hokage office building. Due to the previous battle, the Hokage office building was taken by the huge body of the Nine Tails. The body was crushed, so he had to work temporarily in a nearby building. Watergate sat at his desk with a heavy expression, analyzing all the information he had collected about Uchiha. According to some clues, he felt that the whole incident was connected. On the night of the Nine Tails, there are only dark and ordinary ninjas belonging to Naruto, but there is no combat support belonging to Root. If you say so, this matter also has something to do with Tuanzang. The defection of the Great Snake Pill has something to do with Tuanzo. The Uchiha clan has something to do with Danzo. The Night of the Nine Tails has something to do with Danzo. Thinking of this, Watergate sighed helplessly. How can it be related to Tuanzang everywhere? Quote. Although Tuanzang made a lot of concessions in power in order not to let Watergate delve into it. However, it also showed its attitude. This matter ends here. If Watergate pursues, I am afraid that more people will be implicated. Lord Naruto, these things can only be done step by step, and there is no hurry. Nara Shikahisa persuaded when he heard this. After all, as a Hokage wisdom tank, he felt tricky, so he could also understand Watergate's current mood. Under the peace and prosperity of Konoha, there is such darkness hidden that if I had known earlier, I might have given up succeeding Hokage. Watergate sighed. Naruto-sama. Nothing, I just sighed casually. Watergate waved his hand to indicate that it didn't matter, and then asked, by the way, what is that strong man named Koizumi brought back by Tsunade-sama doing now? Quote. I heard that I want to open a restaurant. Shikaku replied. In this way, such a strong strength, it's a pity not to become a ninja. Watergate muttered to himself, and then asked with some gossip, you say, what is the relationship between Tsunade-sama and Koizumi? Quote. Although Tsunade-sama and Koizumi unanimously claim to be friends, it seems that Tsunade-sama maintains Koizumi to more than just ordinary friends. But if you want to talk about the relationship between lovers, with Tsunade-sama's personality, it should have been made public a long time ago. Shikaku's mind turned, and he could only answer, I'm afraid that only Tsunade-sama and Jukwon themselves know about this matter. Quote. As everyone knows, this is what Tsunade strongly asked Koizumi not to make public. Although she is young and eternal, she still looks like a royal sister, but after all, she is dozens of years old, and she is afraid of being told that old cows eat tender grass. Koizumi said that it didn't matter, anyway, Tsunade was already his, and he couldn't run, sooner or later. The relationship between Tsunade-sama and Koizumi, only the two of them know, muttered Watergate. Shikaku, as Hokage's brainman, if he said so, then Watergate would be even more unguessable. For a long time, Shuiman took a deep breath, turned his head and said to Luju, this place is handed over to you first, I want to go out. Quote. How? Is Naruto-sama going to meet the 9 springs? Quote. Luju is a smart man and immediately guessed what Watergate was going to do. That's right, he should know a lot of things. Watergate affirmed. After getting up early in the morning for breakfast, Kusin walked around the streets of Konoha. What made Jukwon helpless was that at this time, Konoha village did not have the level of modern science and technology like Boruto, and even the early stage of Hokage could not catch up. The refrigerator is already the pinnacle of science and technology in this era. Not only is life very backward, but even the entire village, not even a single designer in charge of renovation. Renovation and transformation can only rely on the experience of craftsmen. No wonder in the anime before, when Naruto was 12 years old, technology only developed to the birth of that old-fashioned computer. Jukwon muttered, no way, craftsmen are craftsmen, anyway, they have been on the earth for more than 20 years, and all kinds of building decorations have basically been seen on the computer. Finding a craftsman shop with a good reputation, he took a team of craftsmen, a total of 10 people, to the edge of Konoha village. Jukwon stopped and said to the person in charge of the craftsman team, this is it, this time after you build the frame of the house, you need to listen to me all about the renovation, got it? Quote. This guest, we have also encountered this kind of request from you, but often the guest is a layman, random transformation, and finally the room cannot be inhabited, can only be reworked and rebuilt, I hope you think clearly. The craftsmen glanced at each other helplessly and reminded. A craftsman with a quick temper couldn't help but say, guest, in the renovation of the house, you are only an amateur, we are professional, please trust us. Quote. Amateur. Oh, that's it. When you have built the framework, let your group of professionals see what is called a master's handwriting. Quote. Jukwon sat on a chair that he didn't know where to pull out, and smiled confidently. Quote, quote. The craftsman had no choice but to build the frame of the house first. Not long after, Watergate came alone. Oh, it's Watergate. Jukwon looked at the Watergate who walked in front of him and greeted lazily. Seeing this, a friendly smile appeared on his heavy face and said, Jukwon, thank you for your help to Konoha. Quote. It's okay, it's entrusted anyway. Jukwon waved his hand to show that it didn't matter, and then as if sensing something, he continued, why, I feel confused on the path of Hokage. Quote. How do you even know this? Watergate looked at Jukwon unexpectedly. Is it hard to know about this? Jukwon asked rhetorically. Now it was Watergate's turn to be surprised, and asked, then do you know if Tuanzang is related to this matter? Quote. Wishing you prosperity, Jukwon said with a honey smile. Happy New Year, Watergate subconsciously replied, but did not wait for Juquan's answer. Wait a minute, isn't this a New Year's message? Although the New Year is not far away, it is still more than 2 months. Could it be that Juquan is hinting at me about something? No, well, the reaction of the Watergate instantly began to brainstorm. After thinking about it, he suddenly understood. You helped so much when you first came to Konoha. I came in a hurry, I didn't have time to prepare any meeting ceremony, these little careful, please be sure to laugh. With that, Watergate handed over a large envelope containing his salary for the month. Juquan took it upside down, about 1,000,000 degrees, and was about to catch up with the honorarium for performing an S-level mission. So he replied, in fact, such a simple question, needless to say, you also know, must have something to do with Tuanzang. Quote, who the hell is that Danzo colluding with, Uchiha? But Uchiha is already dead in the battle with the original Hokage-sama. Quote, receiving Juquan's affirmative answer, Watergate looked dark and continued to ask. Blossom and be rich. Watergate, actually, all my paychecks for this month are with you. Watergate said awkwardly. If you want to know who Tuanzang colludes with, this little money is not okay, at least 10 times. Juquan shook his head. Well, then I'd better investigate it myself. Konoha has just been extensively destroyed by the Nine Tails, and now it is in ruins, and money can still be saved. How's that, don't you think it's tiring to be Hokage? Looking at Watergate's mental state, Juquan said with a smile. Orochimaru defected, the Uchiha clan, and the Nine Tails wreaked havoc, and I always felt that everything in all of this was somehow related, as if there was a black hand behind the scenes. Watergate sighed and said slowly, if I had known earlier, I might have been able to stop all this. Probably, I'm really not a qualified Hokage. Quote, a lot of things, if you make it clear, it's not interesting. If Konoha is to truly prosper in peace, something needs to change. Juquan looked at Watergate with a smile. Watergate thought for a long time, feeling as if he had grasped something, and suddenly said very solemnly, Juquan, thank you very much, I still have something to go first, please tell me directly if you need anything, I will definitely try my best to help you arrange. Quote. After speaking, he hurried away. Although this money comes easily, this opportunity is unattainable, how can there be so many fools to let themselves pit? After walking through the Watergate, Juquan sat comfortably on the chair and counted the tickets. Suddenly, the system prompt sounds. Congratulations on the completion of the side quest, the Industry of the Strong. Mission reward, 2000 energy, 1 spring water medicinal tea. Spring water medicinal tea. Just put a little medicinal tea in hot water, which can infinitely amplify the drinker's desire, like a river of spring water, endlessly. Well, sure enough, overestimating the throttling of the system. Looking at the extra bag of tea leaves in his hand, Juquan silently put it in his pocket, ready to turn back to Tsunade to try the effect. I have to say that the building construction speed of the Hokage world is really fast. Although it is a pure wooden building, it has only been half a day's work, and the whole house has actually been built. Now, craftsmen are already holding plant lacquer and painting the wooden walls. This paint mixed with plant sap not only does not have a pungent smell, but also wafts a faint fragrance, which is refreshing. Seeing that the craftsmen were doing almost the same, Juquan took a pen and a piece of paper and began to draw sketches of the decoration design. Since there is no air conditioning in the Hokage world now, it is necessary to consider the ventilation design in the summer. In winter, it is necessary to consider the location of the heater and the smoke exhaust pipe. There are also some small pieces of furniture and the like, which should also be taken into account. Although it is very troublesome, Juquan has seen more about these decorations, and said that there is no pressure at all. While designing in his heart, the pen in his hand also moved rapidly. In the eyes of the craftsman, Juquan was scribbling on a piece of paper. An old craftsman, that is, the leader of this craftsman team, saw that Juquan's graffiti was still focused, and couldn't help laughing. Don't paint guests, this decoration is not something that can be solved by a few simple paintings, there are still many factors that need to be taken into account, so don't be busy. Quote. The surrounding craftsmen nodded in agreement. I'm done drawing, let's take a look. Juquan put down his pen and handed the design drawing to the old craftsman. Finished drawing. The craftsman looked curious and gathered around the old craftsman to watch. It's just that when the craftsmen saw the design drawing, they were collectively stunned. What is this painting? The impatient craftsman wondered, couldn't this be your blind painting? Quote. However, before Juquan could speak, someone had already helped him answer. Stop. This is the real master's handiwork. The old craftsman trembled, interrupted with a shaky voice. This, master handwriting. Quote. The craftsman looked left and right, only to see that the entire paper was densely drawn, and they still couldn't understand it at all. It's just that after the old craftsman said so, they felt a sense of familiarity. Look closely, this original floor plan, this decoration design drawing, this is a paving map. The old craftsman spoke to the other craftsmen one by one, and then he shouted in disbelief, "Oh my God! There are even hydropower circuit diagrams." Quote. After listening to the old craftsman's words, the other craftsmen looked at Juquan as if they had seen a godman. There was a shocked look on his face, but he couldn't speak. Usually, these jobs can only be operated based on experience. But sometimes it is confused, and it will also be wrong to operate, which will lead to rework and reinstallation. But they never thought that the original decoration could still do this. If you draw all of this clearly on paper, I am afraid that you will never have to worry about reworking in the future. Well, what's wrong with you guys? Am I not drawing clearly enough? Juquan asked deliberately. Whereas the drawing is not clear enough, it is simply too clear. The craftsmen looked back from their shock and smiled. The scene was very embarrassing for a while. Just now, I thought that Juquan was just an amateur, just because he didn't know how to pretend to know how to mess around. Unexpectedly, this is the real decoration master. Huh, how is there still a piece of paper? Quote. The bottom picture of the old craftsman bar was put up, and his eyes were shining. Dear master, what is this? Rao is this old craftsman who has never seen such a thing. Simmons, it's just a kind of chuang mat, don't you know? 2 days later, Juquan's shop was finally completely remodeled, and he also moved out of the residence of the Senju clan. Tsunade-sama, do you say that restaurants that open at 12 o'clock in the middle of the night will be patronized? Shizune asked. Tsunade took a sip of his saliva, his eyes froze, and then asked rhetorically, you don't really think that guy is just trying to open a restaurant, right? Quote. Shizune sighed in confusion, waiting for Tsunade's answer. He must have premeditated something, but what he premeditated, I don't know. Tsunade rubbed his smooth chin and replied with a thoughtful look. After the decoration, the old craftsman resolutely refused to charge the decoration fee of Juquan, insisting that he would pay a tuition fee. If Juquan can still provide decoration drawings in the future, they are willing to share the account with Juquan. Until now, what else can Juquan say? Of course, he agreed. Life. Juquan soaked in the newly built hot spring pool, lit a cigarette and sighed. In fact, he has been working on the ultimate task of the system recently. The system does not specify specific requirements for this. How strong does it have to be to complete the task? Reaching the apex of this world? Or break up space? Juquan is puzzled by this, but there are still many things worth operating, such as writing wheel eyes. Speaking of which, his biggest shortcoming now is illusion. Although Juquan can rely on explosive chi to forcibly break away from the illusion, it will always cause some minor trouble. Sure enough, the Sharingan must be obtained. As for opening in the middle of the night, it was purely because Juquan didn't want to make money from the restaurant at all. The thought of cooking so many dishes is a busy death. The fastest way to get money is, of course, to accept a task commission, the kind of task commission that ordinary people can't complete. If it weren't for the system's stipulation that it was necessary to establish its own industry, Juquan would not have bothered to bother so much. That's why I choose to open the door when the traffic is minimal. Phew, so comfortable. While it's not too late now, it's time to find Tuan Zhang. Juquan got up and retransformed into a black robe draped over his body. Closing the door, Juquan left the shop and looked for the location of Tuanzhou. Tuanzhou generally stays in the base of the root organization, and the base of the root organization is underground. Therefore, Juquan only needs to feel the breath of living people underground, and you can find Tuan Zhang, which is simply not too easy. Is this the place? Juquan carefully sensed and came all the way to the bottom of the fire shadow rock. Underground, there is a lot of living people. He stomped his foot lightly, and the huge force traveled down the ground towards the depths of the ground, causing a small area of vibration in the ground. What are you? A black-clothed ninja with a mask, apparently a root person, flashed next to him. It seems that on the night of the 9 tails, you guys are really idle and have nothing to do. Juquan asked with a smile. Although on the night of the 9 tails, Juquan has been dressed in black robes and has not shown his face. But that black robe was clearly seen by all the ninjas present. It can be said that as long as you see the black robe of 9 springs, you can think of the powerful figure of the Knight of the 9 tails. Right now, the ninja of Root actually asked himself who they were, which clearly showed that they were no longer the scene of the Knight of the 9 tails. You caused the shaking just now. The ninja of the Root did not understand the meaning of Juquan's words, but one thing was certain, this black-robed man in front of him was not a good person. So as soon as he made a look, 2 ninjas with roots also appeared behind Juquan, quietly stabbing towards Juquan with their knives. Pong! As if chasing garbage, Juquan casually waved his hand behind him, and the 2 ninjas who sneaked up instantly exploded into a blood mist. What? The 2 teammates were actually killed in an instant, and this gap in strength shocked the ninja in front of Juquan. Hurry up and let Tuan Zhang come to see me, otherwise I'll blow up here with a tailed beast jade. Juquan said, paused, and shook his head. No need for you, he is already here. Quote. Snap. Juquan casually slapped the ninja in front of him to death, and when he turned his head, it was Tuanzo's gloomy face. Your Excellency killed 3 ninjas in a row in my Konoha, is it true that I have no one in Konoha? An angry Danzo questioned. Don't go online when you speak, if you want to kill me, at least you must hold the consciousness of death. Juquan clapped his hands and replied indifferently. In that case, please explain your intentions. Although Tuan Zhang was very angry, he remembered the picture of Juquan singled out the 9 tails that night, and he still remembered it vividly, and he didn't dare to burst out at all. Well, I'm just here to ask for a pair of chakra eyes. Juquan said with a smile. After Tuan Zhang listened, his face became even more gloomy. The current Tuan Zhang is only secretly collecting chakra eyes. I worked hard to save a little, some are still single, and there are very few pairs. After all, he has not yet experienced the Uchiha extermination at this time, and he is not yet an upstart. He was asked to go to a pair at once, and he couldn't help but give it, making Tuan Zhang feel that his own heart was dripping blood. Although it is not clear how you know about these things, please keep it confidential. Quote. Tuan Zhang finally sighed, took out a sealing scroll, took out a pair of chakra eyes and handed it to Juquan. Maybe, if someone wants to buy your secret, I will definitely sell it. Juquan shook his head and said very seriously. Tuan Zhang only felt that the chi and blood kept surging upward, and if he stayed for a while, he might be exploded. Then I'll go first, you can be careful, don't be angry, after all, it is still useful for you to live. Juquan smiled and comforted, and with a force under his feet, he disappeared. Is it still useful to be alive? Tuan Zhang, who calmed down, kept pondering what Juquan said when he left. No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't think of a reason. The smiling Juquan made him unable to guess what premeditated there was. Back at home, Juquan took out the pair of chakra eyes and put them in his hand to observe. The pair of chakra eyes only had 3 hooks of jade, but it was also expected by him. After all, during this period, even if Tuan Zhang mobilized all the power of the Root organization, he would not be able to collect the kaleidoscope chakra eye. In the next second, the pair of chakra eyes absorbed into Juquan's body. Juquan closed his eyes and felt a stream of heat gathering in his eyes, constantly changing the surrounding cells. When he opened his eyes again, 3 Guyu appeared in his eyes. It turns out that this is the 3-hook jade writing wheel eye. Evolving to the kaleidoscope needs to kill the closest people, it should need an energy stimulus, in this way, I seem to be able to do it directly. Juquan entered the scientific mode, and Buu's physique can perfectly control the cells of the body. Eye cells are controlled, simulating reactions in sad emotions, and then stimulated by chakra. Buu! Juquan's eyes exploded directly, but in the next second, they recovered. Well, chakra poured a little more, less this time. Saying that, Juquan carefully controlled chakra again, and little by little rushed to his eyes. I saw the three-hook jade in Juquan's eyes rotate wildly, but there was no change, so he added a little more chakra. Boo. The eyes burst open again and recovered. I still don't believe it. Boo. I can recover countless times. Boo. You're bursting again. Boo. 3 hours later, just when Juquan couldn't count how many explosions, the kaleidoscope writing wheel eye finally appeared. Looking at the unique and familiar pattern, Juquan knew that he had succeeded. As for the eternal kaleidoscope Sharingan, in his opinion, there is not much difference. Anyway, your own cells can be restored at any time, and you don't have to worry about problems such as blindness. At the same time, Juquan also sensed the unique ability of the kaleidoscope chakra eye. The left eye belongs to the spatial ability. As long as it is where the eye can see, he can appear there instantly, which is somewhat similar to teleportation. The right eye, which belongs to the spiritual ability, can deprive the other party's spirit after activation, and let the other party enter a weak state. These two abilities are very good, at least Juquan thinks so. What's more, after this pair of chakra eyes evolved into a kaleidoscope, they also awakened another ability, Susanoo. After the control cell disguised the Sharingan as an ordinary eye, Juquan smiled slightly. So to celebrate, and at the same time treat yourself, let's make a big meal. Juquan was a house before, but it was not useless. Because he has one of his greatest hobbies, eating. In order to be able to eat delicious, Juquan would often follow the correspondence textbooks to study the practices of cuisine from various parts of the Celestial Empire. In this regard, it can be said that it is self-taught. Having successfully applied for the position of sous chef in a certain star hotel, who would have thought that he would actually come to the Hokage world? Soup before meals, let's have an appetizing hot and sour soup. Juquan stirred in front of a soup pot, and from time to time put some shiitake mushrooms, meat slices, red peppers, spring water medicinal tea. Spring water medicinal tea. I almost put it in too. Juquan looked at the task reward in his hand, and casually put it into the inner pocket of his black robe. For cold dishes, choose assorted vegetable platters. As for the main course, I haven't eaten braised pork for a long time. Quote. Saying that, his figure flew and his hand quickly cut the vegetables and meat. When the rice is steamed, the braised pork has also been juiced. Phew, you're done. Well, the soup is perfect with a little coriander. Strange, where to buy it back? Quote. Juquan wondered, how could he not find coriander in the store? The house has been converted into a commercial and residential type by him, and in front of it is a restaurant shop. Across the yard, behind him is his residence. Because it was very close, Juquan casually changed the black robe. Carefully picked up the soup and went to the back residence to look for coriander. Koizumi, Tsunade-sama asked me to bring you a late-night snack. In the store, a girl with short hair walked in. It was Muzun who was carrying a lunch box. Tsunade-sama is true. Obviously Koizumi opened a restaurant, and I have to worry that he won't eat well, and most importantly, I actually want me to run errands to deliver late-night snacks. But Juquan is so handsome, it's no problem to send him a late-night snack as many times. Seeing that there was no one in the store, Shizune muttered in a low voice. Well, a fragrance reached Shizune's nose, and her gaze instantly fell on the freshly prepared dishes. This is the night snack that Juquan just made. When Shizune saw these dishes, he actually felt that he was hungry too. It was very impolite to eat other people's things casually, so she tried to divert her eyes as much as possible and not look at the dishes. But just eat a little, doesn't it? Finally, the desire for good food triumphed over reason. Shizune added a small piece of braised pork with chopsticks and put it in her mouth, the fragrant and tender taste that melted in her mouth, so that she couldn't help but pick up the second piece. At this time, she couldn't take it, and a plate of braised pork was quickly wiped out. Immediately afterward, Shizune turned his attention to the assorted vegetable platter. Oh, I didn't expect the vegetables to be so delicious with a special sauce. As he spoke, assorted vegetables were disappearing at an alarming rate, and soon they were gone. Good support. Where is the tea? After Shizune has finished eating, he always drinks a cup of tea, which is a habit. But here in Juquan, I only saw hot water, not tea. Let me find. Got it. Quote. Shizune rummaged for a long time, and finally found a bag of tea leaves in the black robe of Juquan. Put a few tea leaves in hot water, and in less than a minute, a strong tea aroma emanates from the water. Woohoo! Silent drinking tea for the first time in these years, encountering such fragrant tea leaves. So I couldn't wait to blow the steaming hot air and take a sip gently. Awesome! The tea ran between the lips and teeth and down the throat. Whether it is the texture or the taste, it makes Shizune feel like ascending to heaven. After taking another large sip, Shizune's cheeks were already flushed. How come, so hot? Feeling that her body was already sweating, she gently took off her coat. But after a while, the feeling of heat still did not disappear, but became stronger and stronger. Strange, is there something wrong with this tea? Now Shizune felt that something was wrong. It seemed that he had drunk something very amazing. Besides, Jukwon, after searching for a long time in the accommodation, finally found coriander on the sofa. God knows why cilantro appears on the couch. While the soup was still hot, Jukwon directly washed the coriander and casually made it into crumbs and sprinkled it on the soup. That's really done. Saying that, Jukwon returned to the shop, ready to enjoy the food. Unexpectedly, the dish has long been eaten. The person who stole the food did not run and was still sitting there. When Jukwon looked carefully, it turned out to be Silent. I saw her wriggling restlessly, and her little face was also flushed with a strange red tide. I should be making dishes, not medicines, right? Quote. Seeing this, Jukwon asked himself suspiciously. However, I saw the unpacked package of tea leaves in the corner of the table, and the half cup of tea that Muzun had not finished. He seemed to understand something. Jukwon, you're back. Why do I seem a little strange? Without waiting for Jukwon to react, Shizune had already pounced. Shizune is still a pure girl. What's wrong with the girl? Who hasn't come from a maiden yet? Quote. Don't forget Tsunade. Now is to help Tsunade share the pressure. I believe Tsunade will definitely agree. Tell such a lie, wouldn't your conscience? Quote. In Jukwon's mind, two villains inexplicably appeared. They were black and white, and they were arguing fiercely. However, before the little white man finished speaking, Jukwon slapped him away. The little white man chattered crookedly for a long time, and he didn't know how to provoke people. While it's hot as king. The first rays of sunlight in the morning will wake up silently. What happened yesterday? She only remembered drinking that strange tea, and then the whole person completely pounced on Jukwon. The remaining memories gradually began to become clear. As the details emerge more and more obvious in the memory fragments, she finds herself as if she just handed herself over. I didn't expect Jukwon to have such a strange tea. But the tea was brewed by himself, the water was drunk by himself, and Jukwon was not present at the time, so he couldn't blame others. Thinking about it carefully, Shizune covered his face shyly, and he was completely overwhelmed. Awake, hurry up and drink some water. Quote. Jukwon came in from outside the door, saw Shizune, and handed over a glass of water. Being reminded by Jukwon, Shizune really felt very thirsty, and regardless of the rest, he took it and drank it. After drinking, let's continue, Jukwon then added. Poof. Muzun, who had not swallowed the water, squirted out after listening. What are you talking about? I don't understand at all. Quote. Shizune wiped his mouth and avoided with a red face. After listening to it, Jukwon showed a honey smile on his face, pulled Shizune and hugged him in his arms. If it weren't for the fact that you were dehydrated and let you go, do you think you still have the strength to drink water now? Quote. I really don't know. Quote. Shizune was hugged coldly and cried out cutely. Don't know, it's okay, you're already my woman anyway, I'll let you know again. Quote. After Jukwon said with a smile, the smile on his face was already dangerous. Soon, muted cries rang out again in the room. One day without words. Afterwards, Jukwon sent Shizune away. Rao is silent and proficient in medical ninjutsu, but has also recovered for half a day, and his walking is still very unnatural. I haven't used my strength, you can't do it. Life. In the end, Jukwon could only sigh and check the character attributes. Name. Jukwon. Subject. Infinite regeneration, Majin Buu physique, absorption and division, control of cell morphology. Abilities. Use of Qi, Turtle Qigong, Dance Void Technique, Three Tails Complete Body Ability, Nine-Tailed Yin Chakra Ability, Kaleidoscope Riding Wheel Eye. Energy. 5,000. Slaves. Senju Tsunade, Shizune Kato. Despite having gained a lot of abilities, the main quest still feels so ethereal. It seems that you have to be ready to fight a protracted war in the world of Hokage. Jukwon put away the panel and watched the sunset outside. Another day passed. I went around the market, bought some ingredients, and got ready to open in the evening. Boom, boom. The bell rang on time at 12, and Jukwon routinely opened the door of the shop. Leisurely lit a cigarette and did not expect guests to come to the door. Despite this low profile, someone came. Jukwon, good evening. I didn't expect you to actually open a restaurant that only opens in the middle of the night. Quote. As he spoke, a strand of golden hair had already come in, and it was the water gate. The entire Konoha village, except for Tsunade and Shizune, also knew the identity of Koizumi as far as Watergate, which was told by Tsunade. The others only knew a name and the black robe. Why didn't you open last night? Watergate was also not polite, sitting in front of the stage and asking. Something happened last night. For the arrival of Watergate, Jukwon was not surprised. After all, with his strength, it was normal to attract Watergate's attention. Something. Hearing Jukwon's answer, Shuaman was stunned, and immediately began to analyze the meaning of Jukwon's words. After all, a strong person who is strong enough to single out a tailed beast, and it is still a strong person who singles out two tailed beasts in one day. Say something to yourself, then this thing is definitely not ordinary. Thinking of this, Watergate suppressed his shocked mood and asked quietly, I'm afraid that the things that can make you delay time are not trivial, right? Quote. It was really tricky when I first encountered it, but it has been solved. Saying that, Jukwon thought of the cute appearance of limping when he went out silently, and the corners of his mouth curved slightly. But in Shuaman's opinion, the corners of Jukwon's upturned mouth were more like a sneer. Oh, my god, the solution he said should not be that he has already killed someone. I just hope it's not Konoha's people. Watergate had already begun to pray secretly at this time, and as a Hokage, he could only painstakingly persuade. Jukwon, you are a strong man, if someone offends you, please don't do it, I will definitely give you a satisfactory answer. Quote. Oh, I generally don't do it. Quote. Although I don't know why Watergate suddenly said this, Jukwon still replied. However, before Watergate's mood calmed down, he muttered again, after all, having tailed beast jade is enough. Quote. Watergate. The two were not on the same channel at all, and Watergate continued without noticing. Since you're here, what to eat? Finally, Jukwon saw that the conversation was getting more and more deviant, so he changed the topic. A mapo tofu. Watergate also felt that his persuasion did not seem to have an effect, so he had to follow the menu on the wall and order a dish at random. The fire burst out instantly, and a dish was quickly served. This dish, pay attention to hemp, spicy, color, aroma, hot, eat while hot, the taste is very good. Jukwon explained. When Watergate heard this, he took a bite, and a hot feeling instantly permeated his mouth, but his hands seemed to be uncontrolled, spoon by spoon into his mouth, and praised while eating. I began to think that a strong person like you, opening a restaurant was just a joke, I didn't expect your cooking skills to be so high. Quote. I envy you too, Jukwon replied. Envy me? Watergate asked inexplicably. What do you envy me? Quote. I envy you for meeting a top chef like me in the middle of the night. Jukwon rightfully replied. Although this is a bit arrogant, but with your craftsmanship, you are indeed qualified to say such things, but it is a pity that you only open the door in the middle of the night, otherwise I can come and eat every day. Watergate has some regrets. As a Hokage, he does not have much free time. Even coming out to eat in the middle of the night is a time squeezed out in advance. Not long after, a plate of mapo tofu had bottomed out. Thanks for the hospitality, I'm done. Watergate finished settling the bill and asked again, are you really not considering registering as a ninja? Quote. I don't plan to do this, but as long as I can afford it, I will accept the commission. Jukwon replied. Is that so? I know. Quote. It's a pity that such a strong person is not registered as a ninja in Konoha. But fortunately, he has a good relationship with Tsunade-sama, so he probably won't do anything harmful to Konoha. Thinking of this, Watergate left with some regrets and some happiness. But who knew that as soon as he went out, he saw Tsunade coming angrily. "Oh, hello Tsunade-sama, it's so late, also come for a late-night snack." Watergate was a little surprised and greeted with a smile. "I'm bad. In the future, you will also come here less often to avoid being damaged." After that, Tsunade went in angrily. Quote, quote. Watergate's smile hung awkwardly on his face. Although I can't guess the reason why Tsunade is angry, it is obvious that Tsunade is angry and the consequences are serious. This discovery made Watergate decide to leave this place quickly. "Well, what's wrong with you?" Inside the shop, Koizumi saw Tsunade staring at him angrily and asked curiously. "You're too kind to ask me. I ask you, what did you do to Silent?" Tsunade asked angrily. Although Tsunade can't bear it, he also has the idea of letting Shizune share it. "However, when I ate dinner, I saw Shizune's twisted walking posture and the blush on his face that could not be dispersed for a long time." This made Tsunade feel very wrong. Even if Shizune had that meaning, the relationship between the two could not develop to Chuang so quickly. There is only one possibility that causes this: Jukwon is strong for mute. Tsunade has lived with Shizune for many years, and for her, Shizune is just like her own niece. Tsunade would never accept such a thing. However, for the sake of Shizune's face, she didn't ask Shizune what happened, but directly rushed over to find Jukwon. "Don't worry, you listen to me explain to you slowly." Jukwon also guessed it, and said unhurriedly, "What do you explain?" Looking at Koizumi's innocent expression, Tsunade's anger gradually subsided, ready to listen to this explanation first. Jukwon poured a cup of hot water, put a few tea leaves in it, and said with a smile, "After drinking this cup of tea, you will know everything." "Is there something wrong with this tea?" Tsunade stared at the cup of tea, and a rich fragrance wafted out. As a medical saint, she did not distinguish suspicious substances from the taste. She then tasted it, and the taste was unexpectedly good, but she didn't feel anything suspicious. "Although it tastes good, this is clearly ordinary tea," Tsunade asked with a frown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 1. Jukwon counted slowly, and as soon as the words fell, she felt her body begin to heat up. "How so?" Tsunade's eyes widened in disbelief. "This is obviously ordinary tea." Sure enough, girls and mature girls are not at the same level at all. Jukwon looked at Tsunade's increasingly unbearable performance and teased with interest. "You, don't say that." Tsunade blushed, retorting even though his mind was already a little confused. "This tea, originally I was going to use it for you, but I didn't expect that Shizune took advantage of my absence to secretly brew it and drink it." As if he hadn't heard it, Jukwon continued. "What?" In fact, when there was a reaction, Tsunade already understood something. Now it sounds like it was Silent and took the initiative to send it to the door. Koizumi smiled at Tsunade and continued, "As for you, since we're here, let's play a different one." Quote, "You, what do you want to do?" Tsunade saw that familiar terrifying smile and subconsciously felt that he was going to suffer. "Do you like flowers?" Jukwon did not answer Tsunade's question, but asked coldly. "Okay." Tsunade's brain didn't have time to react, and nodded instinctively. But as soon as the words fell, she was suddenly stunned again. Few women don't like flowers, not even her. But at such a critical moment, she really couldn't figure out what Jukwon meant by asking this kind of question. Could it be that Jukwon wants to play some romance with himself? This bad guy hides a big bunch of flowers in the store, want to surprise himself. Tsunade's eyes narrowed, and his eyes scanned back and forth in private with keen eyes. But after sweeping for a long time, she did not find any clues about flowers. Well, now it is finally certain that there is no romance and no surprises. So Jukwon, this bad guy, then do you know what flowers I like? Koizumi continued to ask with a smile, already standing behind Tsunade at the moment. "Well, it is very important to move the position, you must be unaware." "I don't know, what flowers do you like?" Tsunade, who was not surprised to find out, was a little disappointed. At the same time, in her mind, she was unfolding an overload of brainstorming to analyze the meaning of Jukwon. "Daisy, you mean, no way. Don't even think about it. Wait, when did you stand behind me?" Quote. At this time, Tsunade also knew what Jukwon was going to do, but it was useless to resist weakly. Not long after, Tsunade's conflicted cry of joy came from the room again. It was another early morning. Tsunade, escorted by Koizumi, covered his still sore little buttocks and returned to Senju Station step by step. Tsunade-sama, what's wrong with you? You okay? Shizune, who was cleaning the yard, asked. In her opinion, Tsunade didn't say a word last night, rushed away, but entered the door in such a posture in the morning, and it was likely that something would happen. The old lady has suffered all these sins because of you. Tsunade shouted wildly in his heart, and he was embarrassed to tell the truth, so he could only casually make up a reason. It's nothing, I just fell down. Quote. After returning Tsunade, Koizumi stretched and wandered the streets of Konoha, unknowingly strolling into the forest outside Konoha. I think that when I first came to the Hokage world before, I was in such a forest, but there were no mountains. Jukwon muttered to himself, a little touching the scene. Boom, boom, boom. Quote. There was a sound of bitterness nailing to the trees ahead. Jukwon took 2 steps forward, ready to see who it was. I saw a child wearing the costume of the Uchiha family, tirelessly shooting at the tree target. The small group fan logo behind it is very obvious, but I don't know who it is. The child also noticed that someone was coming, stopped, and looked at Jukwon breathlessly. Little one, you're working so hard so early. Jukwon greeted with a smile. Toil, work. The child's face is black. This is not like a normal way of greeting. This person in front of him will not come to find fault, right? Are you here to find fault? The child asked with a serious look. How come you see this kind expression on my face? Jukwon curled the corners of his mouth and revealed a big smile again. This guy wouldn't be a human trafficker, would he? The child looked at the terrifying smiling face, more and more sure of his thoughts. His hand shook, and he shot towards Jukwon with a bitter feeling. It's going to be an activity early in the morning. By the way, little one, what's your name? Quote. Jukwon looked at this vigorous child, tilted his head, and dodged Ku-woo. Before asking someone's name, you should report your name first. The child spoke quickly, not slowly, and threw out 5 shurikens. Oh, kind of interesting. Flash. Quote. This is the name of Jukwon's kaleidoscope ability for his left eye, and the ability of his right eye is called weakness, but it is very similar to the summoner skill. So fast. Seeing that the person in front of him had disappeared, the child subconsciously exclaimed. Suddenly feeling the sound of breaking the air from the rear, he instinctively picked up Ku-woo and stabbed towards the rear. Snap. Jukwon held the child's stabbing kunai with his left hand, and extended his index finger with his right hand and pointed it at the child's forehead. It hurts. The child covered his head and crouched, probably the glory of the Uchiha clan, and the severe pain did not make him cry. My name is Jukwon, how about you? Crouching down and patting the child's head, Jukwon asked. The child dodged the hand on his head, dodged out 5 meters with a sideways slide, and looked at Jukwon seriously. My name is Uchiha Itachi, although you are very strong, I will definitely defeat you. Quote. Do it with you, be known by others, and will say that I bully children. Jukwon shook his head, a serious way. Look less at people. Fire Phoenix Fairy Flower Fire. Quote. The weasel made a seal, and a large number of fireballs spat out of its mouth, overwhelmingly blocking all the retreats of Jukwon. It's a pity that the flash of 9 springs is not fast, but spatial teleportation in the true sense. Before the weasel's fireball was finished, Jukwon flashed again and reached the back of the weasel. As soon as the ferret turned around, his forehead was poked again. Now, you should admit defeat. Jukwon withdrew his finger and smiled. Tuden heart decapitation technique. Without waiting for the weasel's answer, Jukwon was suddenly pulled into the ground, leaving only one head exposed. Seeing that the ferret was a little surprised in place, and immediately launched a vigilant posture, obviously he did not do it, there were other people around. Sure enough, in the next second, Jukwon's conjecture was immediately confirmed. Luck is really good, meeting a little ghost of the Uchiha family, the blood inheritance boundary of your clan is very valuable. A ninja dressed in gray and wearing a cloud ninja brace walked out from behind a tree. How can there be Yun Ren? Itachi pulled out 3 shurikens and instantly threw them towards Yun Shinobu. Dang. While. Quote. Na Yunan's speed was not slow, and he pulled out the short knife behind his back, counting it all at once. Seeing this, Juquan smiled and said, "So, this kind of thing as a shuriken is useless except to interfere with the opponent." Quote, "You guy buried in the soil, you are actually in the mood to say cool words, and the ninja who can sneak into the vicinity of Konoha has at least the strength of the middle ninja." Itachi turned his head and said, picking up Kuwu and preparing to start a melee battle with Yun Shinobu. "The little devil of the Uchiha family, you were wrong about one thing, Uncle Ben is a good shinobi." As if irritated by the Itachi's small look, Yun Shinobu swung his short knife and swept directly at Itachi. Anyway, the blood succession boundary of the Uchiha clan is the Sharingan, and as for how seriously injured the Itachi is, Yun Shinobu does not care. "I'm about to graduate, so let's use you to see the gap between me and a real ninja." Dodging Yun Ren's sword, the weasel looked very solemn and serious. "Little ghost who hasn't graduated yet. Haha, less big talk." Quote. Yun Ren laughed viciously, and the short knife in his hand struck at the weasel again. Narukumi no Jutsu. As he spoke, the weasel's seal was already sealed, and the illusion was instantly activated. The unprepared Yun Shinobu was caught off guard and moved. After a pause, he stopped moving. Golden opportunity. The weasel's eyes narrowed, knowing that with his current ability, he couldn't control the other party for long, and he pulled out a kunai in his left hand, ready for a quick victory. But unexpectedly, the weasel had just rushed to Yun Ren's side, and Yun Ren's short knife had been raised high, and said disdainfully, "A little ghost is a little ghost, this kind of illusion, even Uncle Ben can't control it for a second." Quote. Oops. The weasel was shocked. "I didn't expect the other party to break free so quickly, and it really deserved to be a shangnan." In panic, he could only use the bitterness in his hand to resist the incoming short knife. Click. The whole of Kuwu was cut off, and even with it, a wound was also cut on the body of the weasel. However, fortunately, Kuwu consumed most of the power of the short knife, which caused the wound to be not deep, otherwise, the weasel would also be a serious injury if it did not die. "Don't worry, little ghost, it's more useful for you to live than to die. I won't kill you, but if you are so unwell behaved, I will make you live better than die." Yun Ren grinned, and the short knife in his hand was raised again, ready to cut off the Farachi's legs to prevent him from escaping. Only whole cards can be used. Facing the short knife shining with cold light, the weasel's eyes flashed, and he sealed the seal at the most extreme speed, and then said with his mouth, "Fire Dragon Art." Quote. A large fire dragon spat out from the weasel's mouth, carrying great heat, and went straight to Yun Shinobu. Thunder Chakra Mode. Seeing this, Yun Ren was shocked, and immediately retracted the offensive and launched Yun Ren's signature Thunderbolt. Using lightning to stimulate cells, increase their own speed, and avoid the fire dragon without risk. Boom! The fire dragon carried the momentum of burning all things, and continuously penetrated many large trees before dissipating. Is Yun Shinobu dead? Oops, that guy buried in the soil. The ferret looked along the route that the fire dragon burned, and the location where the 9 springs were buried was on this route. But now I see a scorched black, and there is nothing left. Little ghost, I didn't expect that with your age, you can already use B-grade ninjutsu. I have to admit that even I almost got hit, and in return, I will cut off all your limbs. Yun Shinobu, whose whole body was glowing with thunder, fell from behind the weasel, and a short knife, with the power of thunder and lightning, slashed at the weasel. Is this the end of my apparatus? Itachi has just unleashed the fire dragon art and has consumed all the chakra. And he was injured on his body. The body didn't have time to dodge, and could only watch the knife fall. Thunder saber fall, snap. Quote. Before he finished speaking, Yun Ren was instantly exploded into a cloud of blood mist. The ferret rubbed his eyes in disbelief, and saw that Juquan, who should have been burned to death, was slowly retracting his right hand, and there was a palpitating power in his hand. I didn't expect that you, who was called the Weasel God in your previous life, actually had such an embarrassing time. Juquan clapped his hands and looked at the stunned ferrets, as if discovering a new continent. What ninjutsu did you just use? How come I didn't feel chakra? Quote. The ferret came back to his senses, but still asked in shock. Chi, an energy different from chakra. Juquan explained. Gas, what is it? Quote. The ferret carefully recalled in his mind, but still had not heard of this energy. Oh, this is it. Juquan stretched out his hand again and cast the turtle sect qigong to send it towards the forest. A light wave that was more than 10 times stronger than the How Fire Dragon art instantly knocked out a passage in the forest. There is no seal, but it is more powerful than the spiral pill of Naruto-sama. The ferret looked at the passage with wide eyes, unconsciously comparing the power between the two techniques. He even began to compare the combat power of Koizumi and Hokage, and finally came to a conclusion that Itachi himself couldn't believe. The person in front of him, whether it is strength or speed, is probably above Naruto-sama. What do you think? You keep working, I'm going back to breakfast. Quote. Juquan snapped his fingers, signaled the weasel to return to his senses, and then turned around and prepared to go back. Please wait a minute. The weasel, who returned to the gods, seeing that Juquan was leaving, hurriedly stopped him. How? Juquan turned around and asked. I want to ask you to take me as an apprentice, please. Saying that, the ferret bent down and bowed very solemnly. Well, Juquan agreed smoothly, but the sound of the system prompt sounded, so he had to treat it solemnly. Congratulations on taking the initiative to trigger the side quest, the disciple of the strong completes. Mission reward: 5,000 energy, physique upgrade. Physical upgrade. The host's physique is further upgraded, and it can independently cultivate to enhance its strength and master healing techniques. Healing. Consume mental power to heal the target. As long as the target is not dead, it can be restored. This TMD can also. After listening to the system prompt tone, Juquan felt that the main quest was promising. He used to think that the main quest can be completed as long as it keeps getting stronger. Now it seems that this is not the case. If you want to complete the main quest, you have to do more side quests. However, with the urine nature of the system, side quests are not necessarily released once. But now, Juquan has found its way, and side quests can be actively triggered. The strong. Slaves, inheritance, disciples. As long as you think clearly about what the strong should have, you can take the initiative to trigger it. And what is even happier is that as a Buu physique, no matter how he cultivates, he has not progressed, and can only rely on exchange to increase his strength. Well, now, with the upgrade of physique and the improvement of authority, you can cultivate yourself. As for Qi, this is Juquan's biggest hole card at present. This kind of development to the end can destroy the power of the planet single-handedly, show it is okay, but to teach others. No way. Unless you have other hole cards, or Buu's physique is greatly upgraded. However, since you have agreed just now, you can't not teach, otherwise the system will also judge the task as failed. Give him something else. Seeing that the weasel was still looking at himself, Juquan smiled and casually said, with your physique, you can't master Qi at all, but I have better ability, do you want to learn? Quote. Although the weasel was precocious, after all, it was still young, and when he heard that he had better abilities, his eyes lit up, and he nodded hurriedly, think, please teacher. Quote. After receiving a positive answer, Juquan directly clicked OK on the system's redemption page. The domineering awakening method was instantly instilled in his mind, and the corners of Juquan's mouth turned up, and he said with a smile, come, I tell you, the name of this ability is called domineering. Quote. Teacher, do you have to do this to cultivate domineering? Itachi looked at Juquan, who kept tying balloons to himself, and asked suspiciously. Of course, to cultivate domineering, you not only have to experience the fear of life and death, but also need to have the courage to forge ahead in the face of danger. Quote. Juquan said seriously, and the speed at hand was already fast, and the balloon was tied to the weasel. Almost, fly. Feeling the increasing buoyancy on the weasel, Juquan suddenly let go and watched the weasel fly into the sky. Wow, in the sky, only the screams of weasels were heard. Teacher, you won't let me fly again, will you? I don't know how long it took for the ferret to descend, asked with a palpitation. From time to time, a bird in the sky pokes a balloon, and the feeling that life and death are not under their control, I am afraid that the weasel can remember it for a lifetime. Juquan shook his head, showed a big smile, and continued, of course not, you have already gone to heaven just now, and this time it is time to go down. Quote. Down, wouldn't you be talking about it from here? The ferret looked at his position, on the edge of the waterfall in the Valley of the End, and looked down the waterfall, which was high enough to smash a person into slag. By the way, you should have practiced tree climbing, right? Juquan asked. I have practiced, but this height, woohoo. Quote. Before the weasel finished speaking, he was slapped down by Juquan. As long as you don't fall to death, it is enough to cultivate the psychological chi needed to cultivate domineering. Standing on the edge of the Valley of Ends, Juquan said to himself. Speaking of which, the weasel does bear the name of genius. The rock wall, which was still mossy, was firmly sucked by him with chakra, and it didn't hurt at all. Not bad, it's not in vain that I spent 5,000 energy points to exchange for tricolor domineering. Seeing this, Juquan said in the presence of the old god. Exchange domineering. Juquan is also well thought out. In hand-to-hand combat, seeing and smelling domineering can directly predict the opponent's attack. He no longer needs to rely on extremely fast reflexes to dodge his opponent's attacks. Armed color domineering and can make the body. The body is harder, and there is no man who does not want to be harder. As for the overlord color domineering, its power is related to the body. Body strength is directly proportional. Take the body of 9 springs. Body strength, at least much stronger than the 4 emperor's shanks. Teacher, I'm done. The ferret climbed back along the rock wall, and after 2 life and death tests, his expression was much firmer than before. Good, next blindfold, carefully sense and avoid my attacks. Seeing that the weasel had already blindfolded, Juquan picked up a wooden stick and knocked it down fiercely. Boom, it hurts. At noon, saying that in return for his worship, Itachi invited Koizumi to a very famous yakiniku restaurant in Konoha village and ate a very rich barbecue meal. However, Juquan did not enjoy the food, but simply put food in his mouth. The reason why he was not in the mood was because Juquan was planning his own cultivation method. With Juquan's current physique, no matter what kind of physical cultivation he did, he had little effect. The only mainstream way is to do weight-bearing cultivation or gravity room cultivation like in Dragon Ball. As long as the body. If the physical fitness is strong enough, the chi will be stronger. Click. Unconsciously, Juquan bit off all the chopsticks. Old teacher, what's wrong? Quote. Itachi noticed Juquan's thoughtful expression and the broken chopsticks, thinking that something had happened, and asked nervously. Nothing. Juquan replied, and then asked, do you know where you can buy the heaviest load? Quote. So it is. When Itachi heard that it was okay, he let out a long sigh of relief and replied, if it's a load, I know that there is a ninja shop that is good and should be able to meet the needs of the teacher. Quote. Okay, then eat quickly, take me to see it after eating. Juquan nodded. Yes, teacher. Quote. Hearing this, the ferret accelerated the speed of eating meat. I don't know why, he always felt that the weight that Juquan needed was not so simple. After the meal, led by Itachi, Koizumi came to a ninja shop in the center of Konoha shopping street. This guest, what do you need? The receptionist was a middle-aged shopkeeper, and when he saw a customer coming to the door, he hurriedly got up and asked. Need to carry weight, the heaviest kind. 9 Springs Road. Yes, some. The shopkeeper pointed to the weight on the shelf next to him and said, these are the heavier ones in this store. There are 100 caddies, 200 caddies, and the heaviest is 500 caddies, all of which are mixed with heavy gold, which can definitely meet your requirements. Quote. Looking at these loads, Juquan shook his head and asked, these are too light, are there any heavier? Quote. This guest, the weight bearing needs to be carried frequently in cultivation or daily life to be effective. Although there are also some physique ninjas who can barely wear 500 pounds of weight, they can't even move freely, let alone cultivate. Quote. Hearing Juquan's answer, the shopkeeper was not surprised, he had seen this situation a lot. But the next second, his jaw was so surprised that he couldn't close it again. You're reluctant, is that so? I saw Juquan casually pick up a 500-pound load and keep throwing it in his hand. That relaxed expression seemed to be throwing a piece of foam. This lord, it seems that these are not suitable for you, why don't you follow me to the warehouse? The shopkeeper retracted his chin and invited, and unconsciously used honorifics between words. Walking. Juquan nodded, agreed, and led Itachi to the warehouse behind the shop. The warehouse is small, but it is full of all kinds of ninja tools. This lord, this place is full of pure heavy gold, you see with your strength, how much you need, I can make it for you on the spot. The shopkeeper pointed to the pure black metal on the ground one by one, and his hand was also ready for cutting and polishing. Juquan picked up a small piece and felt its weight, then picked up a large handful and put it in front of the shopkeeper. Using these weights to make a load, I want a total of 4. Quote, Teacher, this small strip of gold is 200 kilograms, and this small pile you are holding has 50 strips, and the weight is 10 tons. At this time, not only the shopkeeper, but even the ferret turned on the stunned mode. If a person carries hundreds of pounds, or even thousands of pounds of weight, the weasel will only marvel, but it will not feel terrifying. Because he comes from the Uchiha family, he often meets some strong people, and he is not too surprised. But Juquan carries 10 tons of weight, and if you bring 4, it is 40 tons. The unit is tons. So anti-human. Actually, my goal was originally heavier, but if these weights were increased, it would look bloated. Juquan said helplessly, also expounding a fact. In the Dragon Ball world, Goku has 2 tons of weight and 8 tons of his body. But that was in the realm King God realm, where gravity was 10 times that of Earth, equivalent to Goku bearing 80 tons of weight. Even the 10,000-year-old second Vegeta is driving 300 times gravity at will. But to others, Juquan's words were a little terrifying. 40 tons is not the limit yet. How strong does the teacher have to be? When the ferret heard Juquan's words, he began to analyze it silently, but the more he analyzed, the more he felt anti-human. This guest, these are too heavy, please help me, I can make it for you right away. It is the shopkeeper who reacts first. After all, making money is the most important thing. Although the name of heavy gold sounds good, in fact, ordinary steel is cheaper. Because the hardness of heavy gold is not as good as steel, the weight is still dead, and it is suitable for a load, resulting in a low price. However, with a heavy gold of 40 tons, I am afraid that there must be 1,000,000 taels into the account. The owner started making enthusiastically, and with the help of Juquan, in less than an hour, 4 loads were ready. Juquan put on the negative and tried again, and the speed was suppressed by half, and there was also a lot of consumption in strength. Although there was still some gap from his own endurance limit, as a daily cultivation wear, he was barely qualified. Teacher, how do you feel? Itachi asked curiously. Fortunately, although it is lighter than I expected, it is indeed a lot of restrictions in action. Juquan pouted. Dad, Mom asked me to bring you snacks. At this time, a powder. The tender little girl, about 3 years old, walked over with her calves. Innocence is so good. The shopkeeper saw his daughter so sensible, and a smile of relief appeared on his tired face. The little one is cute, and in 2 years, Hinata should be so big. Sure enough, lowly or something, it is good to cultivate from a young age. Ah! Suddenly, a scream pulled Juquan back to reality. I saw that Tiantian was tripped by the heavy gold scattered on the ground, and in the direction of the fall, there was a row of sharp ninja tools. Every day. Seeing this, the shopkeeper shouted in despair, if this is inserted, his daughter will definitely die. But this is all instantaneous, not to mention the shopkeeper, even the weasel has no time to save Tiantian. Swoosh! Suddenly, the two only felt a hurricane blowing by. I said you can't be careless in the future. In the next second, I saw Juquan carrying Tiantian by the collar, and he was educating him seriously. Phew, I see, Tiantian cried and said, his frightened little face has not yet calmed down. With the gratitude of the shopkeeper, Juquan left with the weasel. Not only was Juquan's weight not charged, but even the weasel also received an additional set of complementary weights, 110 kilograms, 4 for a total of 40 kilograms. With the 6-year-old body of a ferretta, it is difficult to move. Weasel, speed up your pace, you have to learn to adapt to the load. Juquan, who was walking in front, beckoned. Teacher, although you carry a load of 40 tons, you feel that you are not limited at all. Itachi couldn't help but think of the hurricane in the warehouse of the ninja shop, and looked at Juquan, who looked extremely relaxed, and silently quickened his pace. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.